Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Hey, wait a minute, you took the wrong phones. Fu Yan called out to that tall figure, but he only turned slightly to the side before disappearing around the corner of the library. Honestly, with that aloof face, why didn't he think to wait for me, this weak woman? Fu Yan stared at her old-fashioned phone in annoyance. The screen showed a picture of a cat yawning. Could it be some strange person? Here's your phone back, be more careful next time. A deep, magnetic voice sounded from behind her. Fu Yan turned around in surprise and met a pair of deep, dark eyes. He was very tall, and I had to look up at him slightly. His sharply defined features looked particularly handsome under the warm yellow lights of the library. Fu Yan hurriedly handed over her phone, her fingertips accidentally touching his palm, and a tingling sensation instantly spread throughout her body. Fu Yan, History Department, a university. Gu Yichin took the phone, looked down and flipped through it. He parted his thin lips and read out my name and department from the phone's memo. How did you know? I was even more surprised. Did he know me? Coincidentally, there is your information in the memo. Gu Yichin spoke indifferently, put his phone back in his pocket and turned to leave. Wait, I called out to him and asked almost involuntarily, are you also from University A? Which department? Gu Yichin slightly curled his lips, revealing a smile that was hard to decipher. University A, Department of Finance, Gu Yichin. Gu Yichin, Department of Finance, University A. This name seems to carry a kind of magic, lingering in my mind. Back in the dorm, my mind was filled with his cool profile and deep eyes, and I didn't even notice when Lu Mingxuan came back. What are you thinking about? You seem distracted. Lu Mingxuan suddenly appeared in front of me, carrying Fu Yan's favorite milk tea. It's nothing, it's just, I stammered, unsure how to explain. Gu Yichin, the campus heartthrob from a university, whom I bumped into while picking up a phone in the library. He raised an eyebrow, his tone slightly teasing. Fu Yan looked up in surprise. How did you know? He chuckled and ruffled my hair. Silly girl, have you forgotten how well-informed I am? The news of the campus heartthrob from A university rescuing a damsel in distress at the library has already spread far and wide. Fu Yan blushed and scolded, what hero saving the beauty? Don't talk nonsense. Okay, I won't say anything. He raised his hands in surrender, but the smile in his eyes deepened. However, you should be careful, Gu Yichin is no pushover. I've heard that he has a lot of admirers, but none of them have actually stayed by his side. Fu Yan's heart skipped a beat. Lu Mingxuan's words were like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing the little flame that had just been ignited in her heart. However, the red thread of fate seemed to have been quietly drawn. In the following days, I kept bumping into Gu Yichin at the library. He seemed to have gotten used to my presence and would occasionally discuss some historical issues with me. His profound knowledge and unique insights always captivated me. Lin Jiao noticed my frequent contact with Gu Yichin, and the way she looked at me gradually changed. Fu Yan, why have you been hanging out with Gu Yichin all the time lately? She asked in a hostile tone, her eyes filled with jealousy. Fu Yan's heart tightened and she avoided her gaze. We just happened to run into each other at the library and discuss some issues together. Is that so? She sneered. Don't blame me for not warning you, Gu Yichin is not someone you can mess with. Lin Jiao's words were like a thorn in my heart, making me very uncomfortable. I didn't want to argue with her, so I hastily ended the conversation and returned to my seat. In the following days, Fu Yan deliberately avoided contact with Gu Yichin. Even when they bumped into each other at the library, she would only greet him from a distance. However, fate always seems to play tricks. The department organized an academic discussion, and Fu Yan and Gu Yichin were assigned to the same group. The topic of discussion is economic globalization, which is a very broad subject that requires consulting a large amount of information and data. Fu Yan and Gu Yichin met at the library and began to divide the work. We researched together, discussed viewpoints together, and revised the paper together. To Fu Yan's surprise, her thinking was remarkably consistent with Gu Yichin's. Many times before she could even speak, he already understood her thoughts. Look, isn't this data analysis possible like this? Fu Yan said excitedly, pointing to the computer screen. Yes, that's what I was thinking too. We can use SPSS software for a more in-depth analysis. He picked up where I left off, explaining his thoughts clearly. Our collaboration became increasingly seamless, like two well-functioning machines, perfectly complementing and reinforcing each other. Before we knew it, a considerable amount of time had passed, and we completed the first draft of our paper. Great, finally finished. I stretched and turned to look at Gu Yichen, only to find that he was also looking at Fu Yan with a hint of a smile in his deep eyes. Our eyes met and Fu Yan's heart suddenly raced, a blush rising to her cheeks. I quickly looked away, it's getting late, I should head back now. I'll take you. Gu Yichen closed his laptop, his tone natural and leaving no room for refusal. We walked side by side without saying a word, but the air around us seemed to carry a sweet scent. However, this scene was witnessed by Du Yue, who was hiding in the shadows. As she watched Fu Yan and Gu Yichen's departing figures, a meaningful smile appeared on her lips. Fu Yan, interesting. It seems things are getting more and more interesting. Back in her dorm, Fu Yan's mind was filled with thoughts of Gu Yichen. His erudition, his wisdom, and the look in his eyes when he's focused all fascinate me. Recalling Lin Jiao's words, I felt a mix of emotions. Could it be that I've really fallen for him? How ridiculous. How could I possibly like a man I've only met once? The next day, I went to the library as usual, only to find that Gu Yichen was not there. Suppressing my disappointment, I went through the materials alone. Then an academic problem that had been troubling me for days came to mind. I tried various methods but still couldn't find a solution. What's wrong? Did you run into a problem? A familiar voice rang in my ears, and Gu Yichen sat down opposite me without me noticing. I felt a little embarrassed, but I still asked him a question. Gu Yichen took my information and began to read it carefully. His slender fingers flew across the pages as if he were playing a beautiful melody. You see, the key to this problem lies in, Gu Yichen patiently explained, making the originally obscure and difficult theory clear and easy to understand. Fu Yan listened intently and her doubts gradually dissipated. He was like a guiding light illuminating my path forward. I see, I understand now. Fu Yan suddenly realized what was happening and was filled with gratitude. No need to thank me, it was nothing. Gu Yichen smiled faintly, but his eyes shone with encouragement. At that moment, a warm feeling welled up in Fu Yan's heart, and her curiosity about Gu Yichen gradually turned into appreciation and respect. Perhaps Gu Yichen isn't as unapproachable as I imagined. Let me treat you to milk tea, thank you for helping me solve this problem. Fu Yan sincerely invited Gu Yichen. Okay. Gu Yichen readily agreed, a barely perceptible smile on his face. We walked out of the library side by side, the afterglow of the setting sun casting long shadows on us. Fu Yan suddenly had a premonition that something different was about to happen between her and Gu Yichen. All of this was observed by Du Yue, who was hiding in the shadows. As she watched our backs as we chatted happily, a sinister glint flashed in her eyes. Fu Yan, who exactly are you? How did you manage to attract Yichen's attention? Du Yue's gaze seemed to pierce through my back, and Fu Yan couldn't help but shiver. Gu Yichen seemed to sense Fu Yan's unease and turned his head to ask softly, "What's wrong?" "It's nothing, it's probably just the wind." Fu Yan forced a smile, not wanting Gu Yichen to worry. There weren't many people in the milk tea shop, so we found a seat by the window. Gu Yichen ordered an Americano while Fu Yan ordered a vanilla latte. While waiting for her milk tea, Fu Yan couldn't help but secretly glance at Gu Yichen. Gu Yichen wore a simple white t-shirt and black jeans today, looking clean and refreshing, but his aloof temperament was still undeniable. Gu Yichen looked down at his phone, his profile sharp and defined, like a meticulously crafted painting. Fu Yan asked, almost as if possessed, "Besides studying, what other hobbies do you have?" Gu Yichen raised his head, his deep eyes looking at Fu Yan, a slight smile curving his lips. "What? Interested in me?" Fu Yan's cheeks immediately flushed, and she quickly waved her hands to explain, No, I was just asking casually." Gu Yichen chuckled, put down his phone, and said with a hint of amusement, "You'll gradually find out about my hobbies later." Gu Yichen's words made Fu Yan even more curious. "Gu Yichen, what kind of person is he exactly?" Just then Lin Jiao's voice suddenly rang out. "Yichen, you're here too." Fu Yan looked up and saw Lin Jiao swaying her hips as she walked over, a sweet smile on her face, and carrying 2 cups of milk tea in her hands. I bought you your favorite caramel macchiato," Lin Jiao said, handing a cup of milk tea to Gu Yichen, her eyes full of anticipation. However, Gu Yichen didn't even glance at her and said coldly, "No need, I don't like sweet drinks." Lin Jiao's smile froze instantly, and she stood there awkwardly. Fu Yan felt a secret satisfaction seeing Lin Jiao humiliated, but Gu Yichen's indifference made her uncomfortable. He was completely different towards her than towards me. "Yichen, how could you speak to Jiao like that? She meant well." Du Yue suddenly interjected, her tone gentle but tinged with reproach. Gu Yichen ignored Du Yue and simply said to Lin Jiao, "Sorry, I have something to do, I'll be leaving now." After saying that, Gu Yichen got up, picked up his book, and left the milk tea shop. Fu Yan was stunned for a moment, then quickly followed. Fu Yan, don't mind him. Yi Chen has always been like this since he was a child. He's always cold to everyone. Du Yue called out to me with an apologetic smile on her face. Fu Yan stopped and looked at her hypocritical expression, feeling a surge of disgust. It's okay, I don't mind, Fu Yan replied calmly, then turned and caught up with Gu Yichen. Over the next few days, Fu Yan felt that Du Yue was intentionally or unintentionally getting closer to me. She would suddenly appear in my usual study room, chat with me about everyday things, and subtly inquire about my relationship with Gu Yichen. Although Fu Yan was wary of her, she couldn't directly reject her advances, so she could only try to avoid being alone with her. One afternoon, Fu Yan was researching in the library when she inadvertently saw that the cover of a financial magazine featured Gu Yichen's father, Gu Yuanshan, the chairman of the Gu Group. I flipped open the magazine in surprise and read the report carefully. It turned out that the Gu family was a prominent family in City A, and Gu Yuanshan was a business legend with businesses spanning real estate, finance, technology, and other fields. Fu Yan then realized that Gu Yichen was not as simple as he seemed on the surface. His aloofness and detachment might simply be a way of concealing his true identity. A series of ripples stirred in Fu Yan's heart. Since discovering Gu Yichen's true identity, I've become even more curious about him. During breaks between classes, Fu Yan couldn't help but secretly observe Gu Yichen. Gu Yichen always kept to himself, and even when Lin Jiao deliberately tried to get close to him, he remained aloof and distant. Fu Yan had assumed that someone like Gu Yichen would be arrogant, but one day in the library, she witnessed him patiently explaining a problem to a junior student, his eyes focused and gentle, completely different from how he looked at her. At that moment, Fu Yan suddenly realized that Gu Yichen's indifference might just be a disguise, a way to protect herself. That day, Fu Yan was on her way to the library when Lin Jiao stopped her. She looked at her defiantly and said sarcastically, Fu Yan, don't think that just because you're close to Gu Yichen you can rise to a higher social status. Don't you even know your place? Are you worthy of him? Fu Yan suppressed her anger and was about to retort when she heard a cold voice behind her. Lin Jiao, that's enough. Fu Yan turned around and saw Gu Yichen standing behind me at some point. He stared at Lin Jiao with icy eyes and a hint of warning in his tone. Fu Yan is my friend, and I will not allow anyone to slander her. Lin Jiao was intimidated by his imposing manner. Her face turned pale and then red. Finally, she stomped her foot and ran away angrily. Gu Yichen ignored her and turned around, his tone becoming much gentler. Let's go, I'll go to the library with you. He walked silently beside me the whole way, as if protecting me. I secretly glanced at him, only to find that he was always looking straight ahead, his eyes deep and unfathomable, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. The next day, Lu Mingxuan suddenly found me and said to me with a serious face, Fu Yan, be careful lately. I always feel that Lin Jiao is up to something behind your back. She seems to be very unhappy with your relationship with Gu Yichen. Fu Yan was startled. Could Lin Jiao really be planning something? I glanced gratefully at Lu Mingxuan, nodded and said, I understand. I'll be careful. Lu Mingxuan's words were like a thorn, piercing my heart and making me deliberately keep my distance from Gu Yichen. The more I tried to escape, the more his shadow lingered. His every smile and frown, the occasional concerned glance he cast my way, seemed to possess a magical power, drawing me in so deeply that I couldn't escape. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying every moment I spent with Gu Yichen, from our initial misunderstanding and acquaintance to our later camaraderie, and now our ambiguous relationship. It felt like an invisible hand was gripping my heart tightly, making it hard to breathe. I tossed and turned the phone over and over, but finally couldn't resist opening it and typing Gu Yichen into the search bar. The page redirected, and a deluge of news reports flooded the screen. He was actually the sole heir to the Gu Group. That mysterious, low-profile, and incredibly wealthy business empire was intricately connected to him. I suddenly felt dizzy, and my phone slipped from my hand, hitting my face hard with a real pain. It turned out that what separated us wasn't just a difference in status, but also an insurmountable chasm. The next day, I went to class with dark circles under my eyes, only to see an unexpected scene at the classroom door. Du Yue, Gu Yichen's stepmother, was standing in front of him, a gentle smile on her face, handing him a cup of coffee. Yichen, this is coffee I brewed myself. Try it and see if it suits your taste. Du Yue's voice was gentle as water, but I inexplicably felt a chill. Gu Yichen didn't take the coffee. He looked at Du Yue coldly, his tone laced with sarcasm. No thanks, I don't like things that are too sweet. Du Yue's smile froze for a moment, but quickly returned to normal. She put away her coffee and asked casually, by the way, you and Fu Yan have been getting quite close lately. Why haven't I seen you bring her home? My heart sank suddenly and a bad feeling welled up inside me. Du Yue's appearance was like a bucket of cold water, instantly extinguishing the flame that had just ignited between Fu Yan and Gu Yichen. Fu Yan instinctively tried to back away, but Gu Yichen grabbed her arm. He held her hand tightly, his gaze meeting Du Yue's scrutinizing eyes with unwavering resolve. Mom, this is Fu Yan I. Before he could finish speaking, Du Yue's sharp voice interrupted him. I know a poor girl who seduces men with her looks. I stared at Du Yue in shock. The contempt and disgust in her eyes were undisguised. My hands trembled involuntarily as I tried to break free from Gu Yichen's grip, but he held them even tighter. Mom. Watch your mouth. Gu Yichen's tone carried a hint of barely perceptible anger as he shielded me behind him. Fu Yan and I are truly in love, and I hope you won't interfere. True love, Du Yue sneered. Yi Chen, don't forget who you are. You're the heir to the Gu group. Look at her, how is she worthy of you? I couldn't listen anymore and forcefully shook off Gu Yichen's hand. Gu Yichen, this is none of your business. I turned to leave, but a hand grabbed me. Yan Yan, don't be angry, my mom. Lin Jiao appeared behind me at some point, her face filled with anxiety and worry. Auntie is only doing this for Yichen's own good, don't take it to heart. I looked at Lin Jiao, my heart filled with mixed emotions. Her words sounded like she was trying to comfort me, but there was an unspeakable smugness in her tone. I suddenly remembered the photo on the forum and the poster's description of Gu Yichen's identity. Could it be that all of this was Lin Jiao's arrangement? Jiao, stop talking. Gu Yichen's tone carried a hint of warning. I will handle this matters. Yichen, you, Lin Jiao's eyes instantly reddened, tears welling up. I just didn't want you to be deceived, how could you? Enough, Gu Yichen interrupted her impatiently. I said I'll handle this. You can go back now. Lin Jiao bit her lip, glanced at me resentfully, and then turned and ran away. As I watched Lin Jiao run away crying, I felt even more agitated. Du Yue continued her sarcastic remarks, while Gu Yichen tried his best to comfort her and explain something. I suddenly felt that all of this was incredibly absurd, as if I had fallen into a carefully designed trap. Gu Yichen, I will handle our own affairs. I coldly tossed out a sentence and turned to leave the coffee shop. The next few days were extremely depressing for me. Du Yue's influence was greater than I had imagined. My supervisor suddenly received a notice that the research project I had already applied for was cancelled, citing insufficient ability as the reason. At the same time, the translation company where I worked part-time also dismissed me for not taking my work seriously. I know that Du Yue was behind all of this. She used this method to force me to leave Gu Yichen, and I was powerless to fight back. By chance, I passed by a park near the school and saw Du Yue and Lin Jiao sitting on a bench, seemingly talking about something. I tried to avoid them, but I overheard their conversation. Auntie, don't worry, I have arranged everything as you instructed. Lin Jiao's voice carried a hint of flattery. Fu Yan has already been fired from both the school and the company and is now desperate. I believe she will leave brother Yichen soon. Well done, Jiao. Du Yue's voice carried a hint of satisfaction. As long as you behave well, the position of the young mistress of the Gu family will be yours in the future. I hid behind a tree, my body trembling uncontrollably. It turns out that all of this was a carefully planned conspiracy. Lin Jiao approached me and gained my trust, but only to use me and drive a wedge between me and Gu Yichen. Du Yue, in order to break us up, has gone to great lengths. Anger, humiliation, and sadness intertwined, almost overwhelming me. I bit my lip tightly to keep myself from crying out loud. I walked aimlessly down the street, the conversation between Du Yue and Lin Jiao echoing in my mind. My heart felt like it was being torn to pieces, and the pain was so intense that I couldn't breathe. Just then, a warm hand grasped my wrist, and a familiar voice rang in my ear. Yan Yan, what's wrong? It was Gu Yichen. His eyes were full of worry, but I was like a frightened little animal, suddenly shaking off his hand and coldly saying, "Don't touch me." His face instantly turned ugly. What's wrong with you? Why are you avoiding me? Why should I avoid you? Don't you know that? I couldn't help but tear up. Gu Yichen, I really misjudged you. It turns out you were with her just to use me. What nonsense are you talking about? His brows furrowed, and his tone was tinged with impatience. I'm talking nonsense, I sneered. I overheard your and Lin Jiao's plan with my own ears. You're trying every means to get rid of me so that she can take over smoothly, aren't you? You've misunderstood. Jiao and I. He was about to explain when a voice interrupted him. Gu Yichen, that's enough. How long are you going to keep lying to Yan Yan? Lu Mingxuan appeared behind us without us noticing. He pulled me behind him and glared at Gu Yichen, saying, "You're all lovey-dovey with Yan Yan while you're still entangled with Lin Jiao. What do you take Yan Yan for?" This is my business and has nothing to do with you. Gu Yichen said coldly, let her go. Gu Yichen, you're a real bastard. Lu Mingxuan swung his fist and punched him in the face. Gu Yichen dodged to the side and the two began to wrestle. I tried to stop them, but Lu Mingxuan pushed me away forcefully and I stumbled a few steps before falling to the ground. Looking at the chaotic scene before me, my heart grew colder and colder. I struggled to get up from the ground, my mind in turmoil. I don't want to get involved in this farce anymore, and I don't want to hear any more explanations. I just want to be alone. I pushed through the crowd and stumbled away. I heard Lu Mingxuan calling from behind, but I didn't turn around. I just wanted to escape from all of this. I wandered aimlessly through the streets, and before I knew it, it was getting late. As dusk settles, the colorful neon lights of the shops lining the streets illuminate my lonely figure. My phone had run out of battery and shut down sometime during the day. I lost my only means of contacting the outside world, and I lost my sense of direction. I squatted by the roadside, buried my head in my knees, and let the tears flow freely. Yan Yans. A familiar voice rang out above me. I looked up abruptly and saw Du Yue standing in front of me with a worried expression on her face. Why are you here all alone? What happened? She reached out to help me up, but I instinctively dodged away. I'm fine, I said coldly. It's none of your business. How dare you talk to your aunt like that, child? Du Yue's tone carried a hint of reproach. Come on, let's go home with Auntie first. I hesitated for a moment, but in the end I got into the car with her. As the car drove into a luxurious villa, I realized that this was Gu Yichen's home. My heart sank suddenly and an ominous premonition came over me. Yan Yan, rest here for a bit, I'll go get you a glass of water. After Du Yue finished speaking, she turned and walked out of the room. I looked around. The room was luxuriously furnished yet unfamiliar. A faint scent of perfume filled the air, making me feel suffocated. I walked to the window, pulled back the heavy curtains, and saw a pitch-black night sky with only a few stars twinkling, as if mocking my helplessness. Just then, I heard a series of light footsteps outside the door, followed by a gentle turn of the doorknob, and a figure slipped inside. I turned around abruptly, and there was Lin Jiao. How could she be here? Before Fu Yan could speak, Lin Jiao's face was already full of smug smiles. She waved her phone, and on the screen was the paper I had submitted before, but the author's name had been changed to hers. Fu Yan, you never thought you'd end up like this, did you? Her tone was sharp and sarcastic. What kind of high and mighty goddess do you think you are? You're nothing but a scheming woman who climbed the social ladder by relying on men. Fu Yan immediately understood that this was all a trap set by Du Yue and Lin Jiao. They want to ruin me, you're talking nonsense, I said, barely suppressing my anger. I clearly wrote this paper. The evidence is irrefutable. What excuses do you have left? Lin Jiao pressed closer and closer. The whole school knows you plagiarized. How can you still have the face to stay here? If you know what's good for you, get out of here. Fu Yan trembled all over but was powerless to refute. Just then, hurried footsteps sounded outside the door, and Gu Yichen rushed in, shielding Fu Yan behind him. His sharp gaze swept over Lin Jiao. What did you say? Lin Jiao was startled by Gu Yichen's imposing manner, but she quickly regained her arrogant attitude. What I said is true, see for yourself if you don't believe me. Gu Yichen took the phone, his gaze fell on the screen, and his face immediately darkened. Yichen, let me explain, it's not like that. I tried to explain but was interrupted by Gu Yichen's cold gaze. I need to calm down. His voice was low and hoarse as if suppressing immense pain. After saying that, Gu Yichen turned and left the room, leaving Lin Jiao and me looking at each other in bewilderment. I slumped helplessly onto the bed, tears blurring my vision. What should I do? How can I prove my innocence? Fu Yan, you don't need to be too sad. After all, not everyone is as lucky as me to find a man as outstanding as Brother Yichen. Lin Jiao patted my shoulder with feigned sympathy, but her tone was full of pride. But don't worry, I will take good care of him for you. Fu Yan suddenly stood up and shoved Lin Jiao away. Don't even think about it. Lin Jiao staggered a few steps, then steadied herself, a sinister expression on her face. Fu Yan, don't push your luck. Do you think you can turn things around? I won't give up, I said through gritted teeth. I will definitely prove my innocence. Lin Jiao sneered and turned to leave the room. Fu Yan sat alone in the empty room, overwhelmed by a mix of despair, anger, and resentment that threatened to consume her. Just then the door was pushed open again, and Du Yue walked in with a glass of water, her face showing feigned concern. Yan Yan, are you all right? Auntie is also very sad about what happened. Fu Yan stared at her coldly without saying a word. Yan Yan, I know you're a good girl and you don't want this to affect Yi Chen's future, right? Du Yue walked to Fu Yan's side and said in a low voice, as long as you agree to leave Yi Chen, I can help you resolve this matter. Fu Yan suddenly looked up, staring at her incredulously. What do you mean? Du Yue smiled slightly, a sinister glint in her eyes. It means that as long as you disappear from this world, no one will know about this anymore. Fu Yan looked at Du Yue in horror, a chill running from the soles of her feet to the top of her head. Why did you do this? Fu Yan asked in a trembling voice. Because you're not good enough for Yichen at all. Du Yue's tone suddenly turned sharp. Don't you even know who you are? A poor student with no background, you think you can rise to the top and become a phoenix. Let me tell you, no way. Fu Yan took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. You're wrong, Yichen and I are truly in love. Love? Du Yue burst into laughter as if she had heard a joke. What do you think love is? Can you eat it? In this world, only money and power are the most important, and you have nothing. Fu Yan trembled with anger but was powerless to refute. I'll give you time to think it over. I hope you won't let me down. After Du Yue finished speaking, she turned and left the room, leaving Fu Yan alone to face this abyss of despair. What should I do? What should I do? Outside the window, a fierce wind howled, lightning flashed and thunder roared as if foreshadowing an impending storm. Fu Yan gripped her phone tightly. Gu Yichen's name was displayed on the screen, but she hesitated to make the call. I'm scared of hearing his rejection. I'm scared of losing him. Just then my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Hello? Fu Yan answered the phone with a trembling voice. Miss Fu, hello, I am Mr. Gu's assistant. Mr. Gu is currently in the hospital. Please come over immediately. Hospital? Which hospital? Mr. Gu has been in a car accident at XX hospital. Fu Yan was struck dumb. Her phone slipped from her hand and fell to the ground with a dull thud. Ignoring her phone and forgetting her injuries, Fu Yan rushed out like a madwoman, hailed a taxi, and headed straight for the hospital. Fu Yan's mind went blank with only one thought, I must see him, I must. The hospital corridor reeked of disinfectant, and every footstep felt like a blow to Fu Yan's heart. Fu Yan finally found Gu Yichen's ward but stopped at the door. Through the glass window in the door, Fu Yan saw Gu Yichen lying on the hospital bed, his face pale and his brows furrowed. Fu Yan felt as if her heart was being gripped tightly by an invisible hand, making it almost impossible for her to breathe. Brother Yichen only suffered a minor injury. He'll be fine after a rest. You don't need to worry too much. Lin Jiao's voice came from the ward, her shrill voice like a sharp needle piercing my heart. Fu Yan pushed open the door and saw Lin Jiao sitting on the edge of the bed, holding a bowl of porridge in her hand, as if she was about to feed Gu Yichen. Fu Yan was instantly enraged and rushed forward, knocking the bowl out of her hand. What are you doing here? Lin Jiao exclaimed, stood up and glared at me angrily. I'm here to see my boyfriend. Do I need to report to you? I looked at her coldly and said, word by word, you are not welcome here. Please leave. Fu Yan, don't go too far. Don't you know who you are now? How dare you call yourself Yichen's girlfriend? Lin Jiao retorted without backing down. Now the whole school knows you plagiarized academically. You're a complete fraud. How dare you show your face in front of Brother Yichen? Her voice was sharp and piercing, like a series of sharp blades that mercilessly stabbed into my heart. I staggered back a few steps and my vision went black in waves. Enough, a weak voice came from the hospital bed. I quickly turned to look at him and saw him struggling to sit up, but Lin Jiao held him down. Brother Yichen, don't move around. The doctor said you need to rest. Lin Jiao said softly while giving me a provocative look. Shut up, Gu Yichen snapped, turning to look at me with a complex and unreadable expression. You go out first, I have something to say to her. I froze for a moment, feeling as if an invisible hand was gripping my heart tightly, the pain almost making it hard to breathe. Yichen. Get out, his tone left no room for argument. I bit my lip and finally silently turned and left the ward. I sat on the chair in the corridor for a long time, my mind a mess. I don't know how much time passed before the door to the ward finally opened and Gu Yichen's mother, Du Yue, came out. Auntie, I quickly stood up, wanting to ask about Gu Yichen's situation. Du Yue interrupted me, looking me up and down with a cold and sharp gaze, her tone filled with undisguised disgust. Miss Fu, let's talk. I followed Du Yue uneasily to the coffee shop downstairs from the hospital. She sat down gracefully, ordered a coffee, but ignored me, stirring her coffee as if I were just an insignificant passerby. Miss Fu, I know about your relationship with Yichen. Du Yue finally spoke, but her tone was as cold as a winter wind. You are a smart girl, you should know what kind of person you are worthy of. I gripped the bag tightly in my hand, my nails almost digging into my flesh. I suppressed the humiliation in my heart, raised my head and looked her straight in the eyes. Auntie, Yichen and I are truly in love. Du Yue sneered, true love. Your so-called true love means making him fall out with his family for you and even neglect his studies. I didn't, I retorted, my voice trembling with emotion. I didn't make him do anything, it was him. Enough, Du Yue interrupted me again, her tone carrying an undeniable authority. Miss Fu, you don't need to put on an act in front of me. I know exactly what kind of person you are. You only got close to Yichin for his money and status, and I will absolutely not allow someone like you to ruin him. I'm not. I tried desperately to explain, but found that any words seemed pale and powerless in front of Du Yue. I can help you resolve the plagiarism issue and get the school to drop the matter, but you must leave Yichin. Du Yue's tone was icy, as if she were proclaiming a final verdict. I froze, my heart felt like it was being gripped tightly by an invisible hand, the pain almost making it hard to breathe. I looked up at Du Yue's delicate yet cold face and suddenly realized that she didn't care about the truth at all. She only cared about her son and everything she wanted to protect. It was completely dark when I left the coffee shop. The streetlights were dim, the trees along the roadside rustled in the wind, and my heart, like the night, was cold. I wandered aimlessly through the streets, tears blurring my vision. I didn't know where to go or what else I could do. I just feel so tired and in so much pain, as if the whole world has abandoned me. Suddenly, a screeching sound of brakes rang out. Before I could react, I felt a tremendous force slam into me, sending me flying through the air before crashing heavily to the ground. Everything went black. In the dim light, I heard someone calling my name, a voice filled with anxiety and despair. Was it? Was it Yichin? But I no longer had the strength to answer him. My consciousness gradually faded and finally I succumbed to darkness. Darkness, endless darkness, swallowed me. I felt like I was trapped in the deep sea, unable to breathe, unable to struggle. In my dazed state, I felt someone patting my cheeks and anxiously calling my name. Who is it? Is it Yichin? Has he finally come to believe that I didn't plagiarize his paper? Fu Yan, wake up. That voice, it wasn't Gu Yichin, it was Lu Mingxuan. I tried hard to open my eyes, but found that my eyelids felt as heavy as if they were filled with lead. I felt myself being picked up and placed into a small space, where I was jostled and shaken, with all sorts of noises mingling around me. Doctor, someone come quick. Lu Mingxuan's voice was filled with anxiety and fear. I wanted to tell him that I was all right and not to worry, but I couldn't make a sound and could only let the darkness continue to engulf me. I don't know how much time passed, but I finally vaguely sensed a glimmer of light. I tried to open my eyes, but all I could see was a blurry white. The pungent smell of disinfectant made me cough involuntarily. You're awake, you're finally awake, Lu Mingxuan's surprised voice rang in my ears. I turned my stiff neck, trying to see his face clearly, but found that I had no strength at all. Don't move, you're badly injured. The doctor said you need to rest. Lu Mingxuan pressed down on my shoulder. His voice was soft, but it couldn't hide the worry and exhaustion in it. Yichin, I opened my mouth, wanting to ask him where Gu Yichin was and why he hadn't come. Don't worry, I've already notified him, he'll be here soon. Lu Mingxuan seemed to have read my mind and quickly spoke up. No, don't tell him. I tried to shake my head, but it aggravated my wounds and a sharp pain shot through me, causing me to groan involuntarily. Fu Yan, suddenly the door to the ward was pushed open, and a familiar figure appeared in the doorway. It was Gu Yichin. His face was full of anxiety and his eyes were bloodshot as if he hadn't rested in a long time. He rushed to my bedside and grabbed my hand. Let her go. Lu Mingxuan suddenly stood up, blocking Gu Yichin's path, his eyes resolute. Gu Yichin, that's enough. Fu Yan needs to rest now. We'll talk about this after she's better. Gu Yichin's gaze passed over Lu Mingxuan and landed on my pale face. His hand trembled slightly, but he did not let go. His deep eyes were filled with pain and struggle, as if he were making some difficult decision. At this moment, the door to the ward was pushed open again, and a graceful and elegant figure appeared in the doorway. It was Gu Yichin's stepmother, Du Yue. Dressed in a black suit with a cold expression on her face, she walked straight to Gu Yichin's side and said in an icy tone, Yichin, come out with me, I have something to say to you. Gu Yichin didn't say anything, but gave me a deep look before following Du Yue out of the ward. I lay helplessly on the bed, watching their departing figures, a sense of unease rising within me. Du Yue has never liked me, and her sudden appearance this time can't possibly be anything good. Sure enough, not long after, Gu Yichin returned to the ward alone. He walked to my bedside, gently took my hand, and said in a low voice, Fu Yan, I'm sorry, Before he could finish speaking, I interrupted him. Is it because Aunt Du won't let you come to see me anymore? Gu Yichin's expression immediately turned even more grim. He remained silent for a moment before slowly speaking, Fu Yan, you know my family situation. I can't disregard everything. So you've chosen to abandon me. My voice trembled uncontrollably, my eyes filled with disappointment and pain. No, Fu Yan, listen to me. Gu Yichin wanted to explain, but he didn't know how to say it. He closed his eyes in pain, as if enduring immense torment. I understand you don't need to say anything more. I closed my eyes weakly and 2 lines of clear tears slid down my cheeks. Gu Yichin looked at me, his eyes filled with heartache and helplessness. He knew that Du Yue would threaten him with family interests again, and in the end, he still chose to compromise. Stop talking, let me have some peace and quiet. I turned my head away and stopped looking at him. My heart felt as if it had been torn in two, one half filled with reluctance, the other with despair. In a hazy dream, I saw Gu Yichin. In my dream, he was still smiling gently, his dark eyes filled with starlight. We strolled through the campus in the sunset, and he explained the difficult postgraduate entrance exam questions to me in a soft voice. A sweet smile unconsciously appeared on my lips. Fu Yan, you're so smart you'll definitely pass the exam. His voice seemed to be right next to my ear, full of encouragement and affection. Yes, I believe in myself. I felt confident and empowered in his encouraging gaze. Fu Yan, once I get into graduate school, will. What? I looked up at him expectantly. However, his words abruptly stopped and the image became blurry. I tried desperately to grab him, but he kept getting further and further away from me and finally disappeared into a mist. Fu Yan, wake up. A familiar voice rang in my ears. I struggled to open my heavy eyelids and saw Lu Mingxuan looking anxious. Mingxuan, where am I? I looked around blankly. The white walls and the pungent smell of disinfectant reminded me that I was in a hospital. You were in a car accident. Luckily, I happened to be passing by and found you. Lu Mingxuan's voice carried a hint of lingering fear. You've been unconscious for 2 days. The doctor said you. He didn't say anything more, but I understood what he meant. I was seriously injured this time, and it's still unknown whether I will wake up. Where is Gu Yichin? Does he know? I struggled to sit up, but the movement aggravated my wounds, causing me to gasp in pain. Don't worry, I've already notified him, but Lu Mingxuan hesitated, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. What's wrong with him? My heart sank and a bad feeling welled up inside me. He has his difficulties, don't blame him. Lu Mingxuan gently patted my hand and comforted me. Don't worry, I will stay by your side until you recover. His voice gradually faded, and everything before my eyes began to spin. I closed my eyes helplessly, letting the darkness engulf me. Fu Yan, can you hear me? In my drowsy state, I heard Lu Mingxuan's voice again, filled with anxiety and worry. I tried to respond to him, but no sound came out. Fu Yan, look at me, it's me, Mingxuan. He called my name over and over again, and my consciousness gradually returned, my eyelids began to tremble. Mingxuan, I finally opened my eyes, but everything was blurry and I couldn't see anything clearly. Mingxuan, where are you? I'm here, Fu Yan, you're finally awake. His excited voice was right next to me, and I tried hard to see his face, but I couldn't make it out no matter what I did. Mingxuan, why can't I see you clearly? What's wrong with me? I reached out to touch his face but felt something icy cold. Doctor, he exclaimed, and then I felt a sense of chaos. Don't be afraid, Fu Yan, the doctor will be here soon. He held my hand tightly, trying to give me strength, but I felt incredibly alienated and afraid. Doctors came and went, and the sounds of various instruments filled my ears. I felt like a mouse trapped in a maze, unable to find the exit or see any hope. Fu Yan, how are you feeling? Do you remember who I am? Lu Mingxuan's voice rang out again. I tried hard to recall his appearance, but a familiar yet unfamiliar face flashed in my mind. You are. I opened my mouth but couldn't say his name. I am Mingxuan Fu Yan, don't you remember me? His voice was filled with disbelief and pain. Mingxuan, no, you're not Mingxuan, I shook my head. The blurry figure in my mind kept overlapping with the figure in front of me, but I could never get them to focus. Fu Yan, I am Gu Yichin. Don't you really remember me? A deep and magnetic voice suddenly rang out and my heart trembled as if struck by something. Gu Yichin, what's he doing here? Is all of this a dream? Gu Yichin. Who are you? I stared blankly at the man in front of me. His deep eyes were filled with anxiety and worry, yet he seemed like a complete stranger to me. Fu Yan, don't you remember me? I'm Gu Yichin, we were together. He seemed to want to explain something, but was interrupted by Lu Mingxuan. The doctor said you need to rest now, don't think too much about it. Lu Mingxuan adjusted his glasses, his tone gentle but carrying a hint of barely perceptible hostility. In the days that followed, I felt like I was trapped in a maze, my mind completely blank. Lu Mingxuan came to take care of me every day, as gentle and considerate as before, while the man named Gu Yichin would occasionally appear outside the ward like a ghost, looking at me with complicated eyes. Yan, you're finally awake, a sweet voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned my head and saw Lin Jiao holding a bouquet of lilies, her face showing feigned concern. Why are you here? I frowned, not liking her at all. I heard you were sick, so of course I had to come and see you. Lin Jiao placed the lilies into the vase and casually asked, how are you and Gu Yichin? I paused for a moment, then subconsciously looked towards the door. The empty corridor was only filled with nurses walking back and forth. Gu Yichen, what happened to him? Lin Jiao covered her mouth and chuckled, a sly glint in her eyes. You really don't remember him. Well, someone like him, she deliberately hesitated, then sighed when she saw my puzzled expression. Never mind, it's all in the past, let's not talk about it. Her words were like a pebble, creating ripples on the calm surface of a lake. Gu Yichen, what kind of person is he? Why do I have absolutely no impression of him? Just as I was about to ask more questions, Gu Yichen pushed the door open and entered, carrying a bowl of porridge. When he saw Lin Jiao, he was clearly stunned for a moment but then regained his composure. What are you doing here? His tone was icy, devoid of any warmth. Lin Jiao seemed oblivious to his coldness and greeted him with a smile. Yichen, I've come to see Yan Yan. You're not angry, are you? This is a hospital, you can come and go as you please. It's none of my business. He walked past Lin Jiao and placed the porridge on my bedside table. Eat it while it's hot. I looked up at him, my heart filled with mixed emotions. His concern is genuine, but so is his aloofness. How should I deal with him? He seemed to want to explain something but was interrupted by Lu Mingxuan and never mentioned us again after that. He would come every day, sometimes bringing a bouquet of lilies, sometimes my favorite mango pudding, silently put it down and then look at me quietly, his eyes gentle and sad. I could tell he was trying to find a topic to talk about, but my mind was completely blank. I had no recollection of anything from his past, and I didn't know how to respond. Every time I saw the hope in his eyes slowly turn into disappointment, I felt incredibly heartbroken, yet powerless to do anything about it. Why didn't you tell me? I looked up in surprise and saw Lu Mingxuan standing at the door, his usually gentle face full of anger, clutching a gold-embossed invitation card tightly in his hand. Tell me what? I was completely confused. Lu Mingxuan took a deep breath and slammed the invitation on the table. The bright red Chinese letter double happiness character was particularly glaring. I picked up the invitation. The cover clearly displayed the names Gu Yichen and Lin Jiao, followed by the time and location of the engagement banquet. This is impossible, I exclaimed, Gu Yichen's dejected eyes flashing through my mind, and a strange anger and grievance welled up in my heart. Before I could even ask what was going on, the door to the ward was suddenly pushed open, and a dignified middle-aged woman walked in, followed by Lin Jiao, who looked smug. Miss Fu, hello, I am Yichen's mother. Her tone was indifferent, carrying a hint of haughty arrogance, she said. I'm here today to tell you that Yichen and Jiao are getting engaged soon, and I hope you'll stop bothering him. Persistence. Auntie, have you misunderstood something? I suppressed my anger and tried my best to remain calm. Misunderstanding. Miss Fu, we already know about your amnesia, so why deceive yourself anymore? Lin Jiao, linking arms with the woman, said with a mocking tone, You're nothing but an obstacle between us and Yichen, and now it's time for you to disappear. I was so angry that I was shaking all over, but I was unable to refute. Is Yichen really going to get engaged to Lin Jiao? I turned to look at Lu Mingxuan, hoping he could give me an answer. Lu Mingxuan avoided my gaze and remained silent. At that moment, I felt as if my heart was being tightly gripped by an invisible hand, making it almost impossible for me to breathe. Du Yue smiled contemptuously, pulled Lin Jiao and turned to leave, and the ward returned to a suffocating silence. I slumped helplessly onto the bed, Lin Jiao's words echoing in my mind. You're nothing but a stumbling block between us and Yichen, and now you should disappear. Am I really just a passerby in Gu Yichen's life, an accident? I closed my eyes in anguish, but tears kept streaming down my face. Sister, what's wrong with you? A gentle voice rang in my ear. I opened my eyes and saw a handsome young man standing by the bed. His features bore a striking resemblance to Gu Yichen. You are. I am Gu Yichen's younger brother. He introduced himself with a smile. I heard from my brother that you were sick, so I came to see you. Gu Yichen's younger brother. I was somewhat surprised, as Gu Yichen had never mentioned having a younger brother during this time. Thank you, I'm fine, I replied politely, but a hint of doubt crept into my mind. Gu Yichen seemed to read my mind. He sighed, a hint of melancholy in his voice. I know you have many questions, actually my brother. He hesitated to speak, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. What's wrong with him? I couldn't help but ask. Actually, my brother has always worked very hard. Gu Yichen lowered his head, his voice low and deep. He has carried the expectations of his family since he was a child, and he cannot slack off in the slightest. Lin Jiao's father is an important business partner of her brother's company, and this marriage is for the company's development. Her brother has no choice in the matter. His words were like a sharp knife, piercing my heart with deep pain. It turns out that I was just deluding myself. Gu Yichen never loved me. I shook my head with a wry smile, forcing back the pain in my heart, and said in a forced, light-hearted tone, I understand, thank you for telling me all this. Gu Yichin looked at me, a hint of smugness flashing in his eyes. After Gu Yichin left, my heart felt hollow, empty, filled only with coldness and despair. Could it really be just a misunderstanding between Gu Yichin and me? Was all his tenderness and doting on me just an act? I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The image of Gu Yichin and Lin Jiao standing together kept flashing through my mind. They looked so well matched, while I felt like an unwanted outsider. The next day, Gu Yichin came to see me at the hospital, but I pretended to be still asleep. Hearing him walk in quietly, my heart skipped a beat, but I kept my eyes tightly shut, unable to face him. Yan Yan, I know you're awake. His voice was low and hoarse with a hint of weariness. I remained silent and did not respond. He sighed, sat on the edge of the bed, and gently took my hand. His hand was still warm and strong, but I couldn't feel any warmth in it. The doctor said you are recovering very well and you can be discharged in a few days. His voice was very soft, but it sounded like he was talking to himself. I remained silent, simply withdrawing my hand. He seemed to sense my resistance, his hand froze in midair and then slowly withdrew. Yan Yan, what's wrong with you? He finally couldn't help but ask, his tone tinged with hurt and helplessness. I took a deep breath, opened my eyes, and looked at him coldly. Gu Yichin, it's over between us. The end, why? He suddenly raised his head, his deep eyes filled with disbelief. Just because I've gotten a little closer to Jiao. Fu Yan, when did you become so petty? The impatience in his tone pierced my heart. I turned my face away, unwilling to let him see the vulnerability in my eyes. Gu Yichin, you don't need to pretend anymore. You and Lin Jiao, you were a match made in heaven, weren't you? He remained silent for a long time before slowly speaking. Fu Yan, what are you talking about? Jiao and I are just friends, Enough, I didn't want to hear him continue, so I abruptly threw off the covers and got out of bed. From now on, we'll go our separate ways. You go your way and I'll go mine. After saying that, I rushed out of the ward without looking back. I know my behavior was immature and impulsive, but I couldn't control myself. I couldn't tolerate the ambiguous relationship between him and Lin Jiao, and I couldn't accept his so-called friendship. I wandered aimlessly through the streets, and without realizing it, found myself on the campus of University A. Looking at the familiar scenery, my thoughts couldn't help but drift back to the time when we first met. Back then, we were young and innocent, attracted to each other and drawing closer. However, all of this was like a bubble bursting at the slightest touch. Yan Yan, a familiar voice sounded behind me. I turned around and saw Lu Mingxuan standing behind me with a worried look on his face. What's wrong? You look so pale, did that brat Gu Yichin bully you? I shook my head, not wanting to tell him my story, and forced a smile. I'm fine, I just came out for a walk. Are you really all right? He clearly didn't believe me, staring at me sharply. I avoided his gaze, not daring to meet his eyes. His eyes were so sharp, it was as if he could see through all my pretenses. Yan Yan, what's wrong? Did something happen? He pressed on, his tone tinged with anxiety. I remained silent, unwilling to speak. I know even if you don't tell me. He sighed, a hint of helplessness in his voice. It's Gu Yichin, isn't it? I looked up abruptly, staring at him in surprise. How did you know? During this period of time, I have had people secretly investigating Gu Yichin, and discovered that there seems to be some conflict between him and Gu Yichin. Furthermore, I discovered that Gu Yichin has recently become very close to a psychologist, and that psychologist's specialty is. He suddenly stopped there and didn't continue, but I knew what he wanted to say. You mean, Gu Yichin wants to brainwash me? My voice trembled as I looked at him in disbelief. He nodded, his expression grave. I suspect Gu Yichin wants to turn you into a second Lin Jiao, a puppet who obeys his every word. My heart sank suddenly, and a chill ran from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. Before I could react, a black sedan suddenly stopped in front of me, and two men in black suits got out and forced me into the car without saying a word. Where are you taking me? I struggled, but to no avail. Yan Yan, Lu Mingxuan tried to stop her but was blocked by one of the men. Young Master Lu, we are just following orders. You'd better not interfere. After saying that, the man ignored him, quickly got into the car and drove off into the night. I was blindfolded, my hands were tied behind my back, and I didn't know where I was taken. Fear, like vines, tightly coiled around my heart, making me feel like I was suffocating. Let me go, who are you? Where are you taking me? I struggled desperately, but all I got in return was a mocking laugh. After what seemed like an eternity, the car finally stopped. I was roughly shoved and stumbled into a room. Young Master Gu, the person has been brought. Well, let's go down. I heard a familiar voice. It was Gu Yichin. What was he doing here? I forcefully ripped off the black cloth covering my eyes, and the blinding light made it difficult for me to adjust for a moment. When I finally saw everything clearly, I was stunned. In the luxurious room, Gu Yichin sat on the sofa, holding a glass of red wine in his hand, a sinister smile on his face. What do you want to do?" I asked warily. He rose gracefully and walked towards me step by step, his eyes filled with possessiveness. "Of course, I want you to stay by my side forever." That's when I realized I had fallen into Gu Yichin's trap. He wanted to control me and make me his puppet. Just then my phone suddenly rang. I frantically tried to answer it, but Gu Yichin snatched it away. "Fu Yan, where are you?" Lu Mingxuan's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. "Lu Mingxuan, save me, I've been." Before I could finish speaking, Gu Yichin hung up the phone and slammed it to the ground. "Do you think anyone can save you?" he sneered, a ruthless glint in his eyes. I closed my eyes in despair. Was I really going to be at their mercy? Just when I was feeling utterly hopeless, the door was suddenly kicked open. Gu Yichin let her go. I jolted my eyes open and saw Gu Yichin standing in the doorway, his face ashen and his eyes burning with rage. Why was he here? My mind was in complete turmoil. Behind Gu Yichin, Lu Mingxuan also walked in with a grave expression. When Gu Yichin saw them, a cold smile curled at the corner of his lips. "What? Coming to play the hero and save the damsel in distress?" "Gu Yichin, what exactly do you want? Release Fu Yan," Lu Mingxuan roared. I just wanted to remind her of something she had deliberately forgotten. As Gu Yichin spoke, he looked at me with a sinister gaze. "You agree, right, sister?" "Sister." My heart skipped a beat. Why did this title feel so familiar, yet so strange? During this period, I often inadvertently recall certain fragments, some blurry images like scattered pieces deep in my memory, unable to piece together a complete picture. Taking advantage of the brief lull in their confrontation, I quietly shifted my body, trying to get as far away from Gu Yichin as possible. My gut feeling tells me he's dangerous, and the truth he speaks of might be something I can't bear. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my wrist. It was Gu Yichin. Like a wild beast enraged, he gripped my wrist tightly, gritting his teeth as he said, trying to escape, "You think you can get away?" "Gu Yichin, I'm warning you, if you dare to hurt her, I will never let you get away with it." Gu Yichin roared and charged at Gu Yichin without regard for anything else. The room erupted into chaos. The sounds of fists and kicks and things breaking mingled together, assaulting my senses. I stared in horror at the scene before me, wanting to escape, but there was nowhere to run. In the chaos, Gu Yichin shoved me hard and I fell heavily to the ground. A sharp pain shot through my head and my vision blurred. Fragments of memory, as if pieced together by an invisible hand, became clearer and clearer. I remember now, I'm not an orphan, I'm the adopted daughter of the Gu family, Gu Yichin's half-sister. Gu Yichin, he likes me, he has always liked me. Ah, I clutched my head in anguish as long-buried memories surged forth like a raging flood, assaulting my reason. "Yan Yan, what's wrong?" I heard Gu Yichin's anxious voice, but I couldn't see his face clearly. All I could see was a sea of blood. "Go away, leave me alone." I pushed him away forcefully, but he held me tightly. "Yan Yan, don't be afraid, I'll take you away." Just then, I felt a tremendous force pull me away from Gu Yichin, and I heard Gu Yichin's icy voice in my ear. "Want to take her away?" "Dream on." Everything went black before my eyes, and I completely lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I found myself in a completely unfamiliar place, and Gu Yichin was sitting by my bedside. His eyes were filled with madness and obsession as he looked at me. The glaring lights made it hard for me to open my eyes, my head was throbbing, and those chaotic images were swirling in my mind. I struggled to get up, only to find myself tied to a chair with sharp pains shooting through my wrists. "You're awake." Gu Yichin's voice was cold and unfamiliar, lacking its usual gentleness. He stood before me, his eyes filled with madness and obsession, like a wounded beast, radiating a dangerous aura. "Gu Yichin, what exactly do you want to do?" I suppressed my fear and tried my best to remain calm. "What do I want to do? I want you, Fu Yan. I fell in love with you the moment you first appeared at the Gu family." Gu Yichin grabbed my shoulders suddenly, his tone almost frantic. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, my mind racing as I considered a solution. I had to buy time, waiting for Gu Yichin to rescue me or find a chance to save myself. "Yichin, calm down, there's no way we can be together." I tried to make my tone sound calm and gentle. "Do you remember? We grew up together and I've always treated you like a younger brother." "No, you're not my sister." Gu Yichin suddenly became agitated. He abruptly released my hand and clutched his head in anguish. You're mine." I took the opportunity to observe my surroundings. It was an abandoned warehouse with the windows boarded up and only an iron door locked. It seemed that escaping from here would not be easy. "Yichin, listen to me." "Don't call me Yichin," he suddenly interrupted me, a fierce glint in his eyes. From today onwards, you can only be mine, and I will never let anyone take you away from me again. He turned and walked to the corner of the wall where there was a medicine box. He took out a syringe from it and approached step by step. What do you want? Don't come any closer. I struggled in terror, the sound of me moving the chair echoing in the empty warehouse, yet it seemed utterly powerless. Don't be afraid, Yan Yan, I just want you to stay by my side forever. He walked towards me step by step with a strange smile on his face. My heart sank. I knew I had to do something or it would really be too late. I closed my eyes, awaiting the arrival of fate. Just at that critical moment, the warehouse door was suddenly kicked open, and a familiar figure rushed in, knocking Gu Yichin to the ground. Gu Yichin, I was overjoyed, as if I had seen a savior. Gu Yichin quickly untied the ropes binding me and held me tightly in his arms. His embrace was warm and strong, making me feel safe. It's all right, Yan Yan, I'm here. He gently stroked my hair, his voice filled with heartache and self-reproach. Gu Yichin's cold gaze swept over Gu Yichin on the ground, a ruthless glint flashing in his eyes. He then handed me to Lu Mingxuan behind him. Take her away. Lu Mingxuan led me away from the warehouse, and we sped all the way to a secluded house. It's safe here, you can stay here for now. Lu Mingxuan said, I have already sent people to protect your safety. Don't worry, Du Yue won't find this place. I nodded gratefully. Lu Mingxuan's appearance was like a ray of hope for me when I was in despair. Yichin He's fine, he just needs to take care of some things. Lu Mingxuan interrupted me, don't worry, he'll handle everything. I understand what Lu Mingxuan means. Gu Yichin has to face the entire Gu family as well as that ruthless Du Yue. He has a heavy burden on his shoulders. Mingxuan, thank you. I thanked him sincerely. Lu Mingxuan smiled and said, silly girl, why are you being so polite with me? You should rest well and leave the rest to me. For the next few days, I stayed in this safe little house. Lu Mingxuan provided me with everything I needed, and he also brought me a lot of information about Du Yue. Only then did I realize that Du Yue was willing to go to any lengths to obtain the Gu family's assets, even causing the death of Gu Yichin's mother. Looking at these documents, I was filled with anger and guilt. I had actually been deceived by Du Yue's hypocrisy and almost harmed Gu Yichin. I've decided to stop running away. I'm going to work with Gu Yichin to expose Du Yue's true colors and seek justice for our love and for everyone she has hurt. Days passed by, and I gradually calmed down from my initial fear and anxiety. I carefully studied the materials Lu Mingxuan brought. Those cold words recorded Du Yue's shocking crimes one by one. She's like a venomous snake lurking in the shadows, willing to do anything to achieve her goals. I clenched my fists, a burning rage raging within me. I was determined to make Du Yue receive the punishment she deserved. Lu Mingxuan not only brought me information, but also taught me how to collect evidence and how to protect myself. It was as if a new world had opened up for me, and I gradually grew from an innocent student into a brave and strong woman. I've come to understand that love isn't something to run away from, but something to bravely pursue. One day, Lin Jiao suddenly appeared in front of me, a fake smile on her face, but her tone was full of sarcasm. Oh, isn't this Miss Fu? What are you doing hiding here? Are you afraid of Aunt Du or afraid of Brother Yichin? I looked at her coldly. I had once been deceived by her delicate appearance, but now I only felt disgusted. I ignored her provocation and turned to leave, but she grabbed me. You think you can go back to Brother Yichin's side? You're dreaming. Lin Jiao screamed hysterically. I'm telling you, Brother Yichin is mine, and you'll never be able to take him away. I forcefully shook off her hand, my eyes sharp. Lin Jiao, you're pathetic. Do you think you can win love with your despicable methods? You're wrong, all you'll get is endless pain and torment. Lin Jiao was enraged by my words. She suddenly lunged at me, trying to slap me. I was prepared, so I dodged to the side, grabbed her wrist, twisted it hard, and pushed her to the ground. Lin Jiao was in so much pain that tears streamed down her face, but she still glared at me fiercely. Lin Jiao, this is my last warning to you. Don't mess with me again or you'll regret it, I said coldly, then turned and left. I walked down the street feeling incredibly happy. The weak and helpless Fu Yan of the past was gone, replaced by a brave and strong me. Suddenly, a familiar car stopped in front of me, the window slowly rolled down, and a face that I had been dreaming of appeared before me. Yichin, I covered my mouth, tears welling up in my eyes. Gu Yichin's eyes were filled with heartache and self-blame. He opened the car door and hugged me tightly. Yan Yan, I'm sorry, I've made you suffer. I held him tightly, buried my head in his chest, and felt his warm embrace, as if all the suffering had vanished. Let's never be apart again, okay? Gu Yichin gently stroked my hair, his tone firm and affectionate. I looked up at him, my eyes blurry with tears, and nodded heavily. As the sun set, Gu Yichin and I strolled hand in hand through the streets. the golden sunlight bathing us as if foreshadowing a future full of hope for us. However, I know this is just the calm before the storm. A much more severe test awaits us. Yan Yan, don't be afraid, I have found out everything. Du Yue is the real mastermind. Gu Yichen cupped my face in his hands, his tone gentle yet firm. I nodded, but tears welled up in my eyes again. All the grievances and fears I had felt over the past few days found an outlet at this moment. Gu Yichen gently wiped away my tears, his deep eyes flashing with determination. I will make Du Yue pay the price, and I will prove your innocence to everyone. We decided to expose Du Yue's true colors at the Gu family's annual family dinner. To ensure the plan went perfectly, we and Lu Mingxuan devised a meticulous scheme. Lu Mingxuan used all his connections to invite several highly respected elders and influential shareholders of the Gu group to the dinner. I knew that this time we were going to ruin Du Yue's reputation and leave her nowhere to hide. On the eve of the banquet, a tense atmosphere hung in the air, as if a storm was brewing. I could clearly feel the resentment and panic in Du Yue's eyes as she looked at me. She seemed to have sensed something, yet she was still making a last-ditch effort like a trapped beast. She tried to sow discord between me and Gu Yichen, but Gu Yichen interrupted her intentionally or unintentionally. I noticed that Gu Yichen, who had always been frail and sickly, had an unusually firm look in his eyes at this moment. Standing next to me and Gu Yichen, he seemed like an invisible barrier, keeping all malice out. After dinner, Du Yue, under the pretext of caring about my postgraduate entrance exam, knocked on my door with a cup of hot milk. I looked at her warily but pretended to be flattered. "Auntie, what brings you here?" Du Yue approached with a forced smile, patting my hand affectionately. "Yan Yan, I've heard about you and Yi Chen. I've been through this before. It's normal for young people to date, but you should also consider the impact, don't you think?" I sneered inwardly. This was clearly an implication that I shouldn't be delusional. Gu Yichen wouldn't marry me. I nodded obediently. "Auntie is right, I'll be careful." Seeing how sensible I was, Du Yue smiled with satisfaction and handed me the milk. "Drink it, Auntie warmed it up especially for you." I looked at the steaming milk and felt a wave of nausea. It was obvious Du Yue had tampered with it. Just as I was thinking about how to refuse, the door was suddenly flung open from the outside. Gu Yichen stood there, pale-faced, his voice urgent. "Sister, something terrible has happened. Dad's suddenly feeling unwell, you have to go see him right away." My heart tightened and I looked at Gu Yichen with concern. "What happened? What's wrong with Dad?" Gu Yichen shook his head, his eyes reddening. "I don't know either. Dad was fine just now, but suddenly he said his chest hurts. The maid has already called the family doctor. You should go and see him." Du Yue's expression changed, clearly not expecting her plan to be interrupted by Gu Yichen. She glared at me resentfully, her tone carrying a hint of warning. "Yan Yan, Yichen's father's matter is important, you should go and see him quickly." I nodded, calmly poured the glass of milk into the sink, and then hurriedly left with Gu Yichen. The banquet arrived as scheduled. In the magnificent banquet hall, elegant ladies and graceful ladies mingled, and glasses clinked in celebration. I stood in the crowd, took a deep breath, and tried to calm my nervousness. I know this is my only chance and I must seize it. When it was my turn to give a speech, I slowly walked to the front of the stage. The lights shone on me and I could almost feel everyone's eyes on me. I composed myself, picked up the microphone, and spoke slowly in a clear voice. "Distinguished elders, honored guests, good evening. I am Fu Yan, a friend of Gu Yichen." I paused, ignoring the surprised looks from the audience, and continued. "Today, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you a story about deception, framing, and the truth." My gaze swept across the audience, finally settling on Du Yue, whose face was deathly pale. A mocking smile curled at the corner of my lips. Then I began my narration, revealing to the public without reservation Du Yue's actions over the years. My words were like a thunderclap from a clear sky, and the entire banquet hall fell silent instantly. The crowd looked at Du Yue with shock and suspicion, while she, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, was pale and her eyes were filled with panic. "You're talking nonsense." Du Yue finally couldn't help but scream. She pointed at me, trembling all over. "You're slandering me. What evidence do you have to prove that what I said is false?" I gave a cold laugh, having expected her to deny it outright. Just then, Gu Yichen stepped out from the crowd. He walked to my side, gently took my hand, gave me a reassuring look, and then turned to face the crowd, his voice low and powerful. "I have evidence." He pulled a USB drive from his pocket and held it up to everyone. Inside, there's evidence of Du Yue transferring company assets over the years, a recording of her bribing a doctor to forge my father's critical condition notice, and even a video of her drugging and framing me to stop me from being with Fu Yan. As Gu Yichen finished speaking, the atmosphere in the banquet hall plummeted to freezing point. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the small USB drive as if it were the key to unlock Pandora's box. Duyue panicked completely. She tried to rush forward and snatch the USB drive but was stopped by Gu Yichen's bodyguard. She struggled frantically, screaming, "No, it can't be, you're framing me, you've all conspired to frame me." However, her explanations proved futile in the face of irrefutable evidence. Gu Yichen gave her no further chances, handing the USB drive to the police who had already arrived after receiving the report. Duyue was ultimately taken away by the police in full view of everyone. I still can't forget the venomous look in her eyes. Everything had settled down, but I didn't feel the relief I had imagined. This victory was hard-won. We had all paid too high a price. I looked at Gu Yichin beside me. He still appeared calm and collected, but I knew that his heart was far from at peace. "Can we really go back to the way things were before?" I asked softly, a hint of unease in my voice. Gu Yichin looked down at me, my image reflected in his deep eyes. A gentle smile appeared on his lips. "We may not be able to go back to the past, but we can create the future together." Gu Yichin grasped my hand. His palm was warm and dry, yet it conveyed a tremor that I couldn't ignore. "We'll be all right," he said firmly, but his eyes betrayed his weariness. Duyue's incident was like a bomb, shattering the once peaceful surface of the Gu family. Grandpa Gu looked much older overnight. Although he didn't directly blame me, his gaze towards me was more complex and scrutinizing. "I know he's blaming me for getting involved in this scandal with the Gu family." At the family meeting, Gu Yichin publicly announced that he would recover all of Duyue's assets and shares and sever his mother-son relationship with her. His tone was cold and resolute, without the slightest hesitation. "Yichin, what have you done to the Gu family's reputation?" An elder stepped forward, his words filled with displeasure. "The Gu family's reputation has been ruined by people like this." Gu Yichin slammed his hand on the table and stood up abruptly. He looked around, his eyes sharp. "I'm making this clear today. Anyone who dares to protect Duyue again is my enemy." The atmosphere in the meeting room was extremely tense, and no one dared to utter a word of rebuttal. I sat in the corner, watching Gu Yichin fight against his entire family for my sake, and I felt a mix of emotions. Finally, Mr. Gu waved wearily and adjourned the meeting. He kept Gu Yichin behind alone. I don't know what they talked about, but when Gu Yichin came out, his face was even more gloomy. "What's wrong?" I asked worriedly. "It's nothing, just some family matters." He forced a smile, trying to hide his inner turmoil. "Yichin, let's leave here." I suddenly grabbed his hand, my gaze resolute. "Let's go somewhere where no one knows us and start over." He gripped my hand tightly, his eyes filled with struggle and exhaustion. Yan, you know this is impossible. I can't just leave like this." I know he's telling the truth. The Gu family and the Gu group are like two mountains, weighing heavily on his shoulders. And I don't want to be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Mingxuan said we can go to the south. He knows a friend who opened a studio there. We can. My voice trailed off and eventually disappeared into the air. Yan, he interrupted me, his tone gentle yet firm. "Believe me, I will handle all of this and give you a future." I forced a smile, but a bitter feeling welled up inside me. The future, what a wonderful word. But where is our future? That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, my mind replaying everything that had happened in the past few days: confusion, anxiety, worry, a jumble of emotions that made it hard to breathe. I got up, put on my coat, and quietly left the room. The villa was quiet, except for the light in the study. I walked over as if possessed, gently pushed open the door, and saw Gu Yichin standing by the window with his back to me, seemingly lost in thought. "Yichin," I called him softly. He turned around, saw me, and a look of surprise crossed his face. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" I opened my mouth but didn't know what to say. Just then I heard a deep voice coming from the next room. It was old Master Gu's voice. "Yichin, I know you're not feeling well, but you must understand that you carry the hopes of the entire family on your shoulders." I held my breath and instinctively hid behind the curtains. "Grandpa, I know." Gu Yichin's voice was a little hoarse. "I will not give up the Gu family, nor will I give up." His voice grew softer and softer, and I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could feel the heaviness and helplessness in his tone. At that moment, I suddenly realized that taking care of the family was not just a responsibility for him, but also an inseparable bond. I covered my mouth to prevent myself from making any sound. Every word Grandpa Gu said pierced my heart like a needle. I finally understood that there was an insurmountable chasm between us. I love him, so I can't selfishly confine him to my world. Back in my room, I turned on my computer and began writing a letter. Each word I typed was soaked with tears. I told him I understood his difficulties and believed he would handle everything. I chose to leave so he wouldn't have any worries, and also so I could find my own place in the world. It was past midnight when I finished writing the letter. I packed my simple luggage, took one last look at this place that held countless memories for him and me, and then left without looking back. I don't know how Gu Yichin will react after seeing the letter, but I believe he will understand my choice. Leaving him was the hardest decision of my life, but I believe time will heal everything. I came to the south alone, to this unfamiliar city, where I felt neither his presence nor his familiar face. I rented a small apartment and started trying to live independently. During the day, I go to the library to study and prepare for my doctoral entrance exam. At night, I work at a coffee shop to keep myself busy and avoid thinking about him. Life was tough, but I didn't give up. I told myself, Fu Yan, you can do it, you must live well. A month later, I received an email from University A. I was accepted. I jumped for joy. It was the best news I'd received since leaving him. I knew that a new chapter was about to begin in my life, and he too would have his own wonderful future. That day, I finished my work at the coffee shop and was walking home. Suddenly, a black sedan stopped in front of me, the door opened, and a familiar figure stepped out. Yan Yan, Lu Mingxuan stood by the car, looking at me with a complicated expression, hesitant to speak. I was taken aback for a moment, then realized he must have seen the letter. Mingxuan, what brings you here? He gave a wry smile. I was worried about you, so I came to see you. He paused, a hint of concern in his eyes. Are you really determined to leave him? He's all ready. Mingxuan, I interrupted him, not wanting to bring up the past again. I've let it go. Now I just want to study hard and live my life well. He was silent for a moment, then nodded. Okay, you have your choice and I respect your decision. He took out a business card from his pocket and handed it to me. This is my friend's company. They are hiring and I think you are a good fit. I took the business card. It read XX Group, a reputable company in the industry. Mingxuan, thank you. I knew he was helping me. No need to thank me, we're friends, he smiled. I believe that with your abilities, you can definitely achieve something here. I nodded and gripped the business card in my hand tightly. With Lu Mingxuan's help, I successfully entered XX Group to work. I was assigned to the marketing department, where I was responsible for promoting a new project. I threw myself into my work, and with my solid professional knowledge and keen market insight, I quickly distinguished myself in the company. However, my outstanding performance aroused Lin Jiaojiao's jealousy. She somehow found out about me and ended up working at the company as my colleague. Hey, isn't this Fu Yan? What are you doing here? One day, I was making coffee in the break room when Lin Jiaojiao's voice suddenly came from behind me, her tone full of sarcasm. I turned around and looked at her coldly. Lin Jiaojiao, what are you doing here? I'm here to work, what you're not welcoming me. She raised an eyebrow, a hint of malice flashing in her eyes. I heard you've been doing quite well lately, becoming a rising star in the company. So what? It's none of your business. I didn't want to waste any more words on her, so I picked up my coffee and tried to leave. Fu Yan, don't be so smug, she grabbed my arm. Let me tell you, I won't let you get away with this. I shook off her hand and said coldly, Lin Jiaojiao, you'd better not mess with me again or I won't be polite to you. She was so angry that her face turned pale, but she didn't dare to lay a hand on me again. She could only glare at me fiercely before turning around and leaving. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the anger in my heart. I know Lin Jiaojiao won't let this go. She'll definitely try every means to get revenge on me. I must be careful not to let her find any fault with me. In the days that followed, I worked even harder to achieve better results and not give Lin Jiaojiao any opportunity to take advantage of me. One evening, I was working overtime when I suddenly received an anonymous email. The email contained only one sentence. Want to know the truth? Come to XX Cafe, I'll be waiting for you there. I hesitated for a moment. Who sent this email? What truth do they know? Curiosity and a glimmer of hope prompted me to leave the office and head towards the coffee shop. In the dim light, a woman in a black trench coat sat in the corner, her head covered by a wide-brimmed hat that obscured most of her face. I walked over and sat down opposite her. Did you email me? I asked in a low voice. She nodded slightly, took off her hat, revealing an unfamiliar face. Miss Fu, I know you've been investigating Duyue's matter. I can help you. I was startled and looked at her warily. Who are you? Why are you helping me? Who I am is not important. What matters is that we have a common goal. She took a file folder out of her bag and handed it to me. You'll find what you're looking for here. I hesitated for a moment before taking the document. Inside were documents and photos outlining a complex network of illicit activities, bribery, fraud, and even links to organized crime. The center of everything is Duyue. Is all of this real? I looked at her incredulously. It's true. She said firmly, I know it may be hard for you to accept, but that's the truth. Duyue is far more terrifying than you imagine. I gripped the file folder tightly, my heart churning with turmoil. If all of this is true, then Gu Yichin, I dare not think any further. Why are you telling me this? I looked up and stared directly into her eyes. Because I want her to be punished by law, and I also want you to see her true colors. She paused, a hint of sorrow in her voice. I was once her victim too. I looked at the unfamiliar woman in front of me. Her face was etched with the marks of time, but her eyes burned with a determined flame. I choose to believe her, to believe those shocking truths. I gripped the file folder tightly in my hand, as if I were holding a sharp sword to expose evil. I quit my job and devoted myself entirely to investigating Duyue. I contacted a lawyer, consulted relevant laws, and began collecting more evidence. I visited those who had been hurt by Duyue, listened to their experiences, and recorded their pain. Each story is like a sharp blade, piercing my heart and further strengthening my resolve to uncover the truth. I held a press conference and invited representatives from major media outlets and people from all walks of life to attend. Surrounded by flashing lights, I took a deep breath and began my speech. I recounted my experiences, exposed the evil behind Duyue, and made public all the evidence I had collected. My voice was strong and clear, every word resonating deeply with everyone present. Below the stage, Lin Jiao's face was pale, her eyes darting around as she tried to avoid the gazes of the crowd. She hadn't expected that I would be able to find so much evidence, nor had she expected that I would choose such a drastic method to expose everything to the public. Her schemes and tricks proved utterly inadequate in the face of the truth. After my speech, I announced the establishment of a charitable foundation to help those who, like me, have suffered similar harm. I hope that my experience can serve as a warning to more people, and that the light of justice can shine in every corner. However, the thrill of revenge did not lessen the pain in my heart. I looked at myself in the mirror, my eyes filled with unfamiliarity and weariness. I had successfully brought Duyue to justice, but I had also lost my former innocence and joy. Can I ever find myself again? After the press conference, I felt completely drained and just wanted to find a quiet corner to lick my wounds alone. But those who had been hurt by Duyue surrounded me with tears in their eyes and gratitude in their eyes. Their weathered faces were filled with sincere thanks, making it impossible for me to refuse them or run away. I forced myself to stay awake and responded to their thanks, trying to force a genuine smile. However, only I knew the weariness and bitterness hidden behind that smile. Fu Yan. A familiar voice suddenly rang out from the crowd, and my heart skipped a beat, as if it were being gripped tightly by an invisible hand. I turned my head with difficulty, searching through the crowd for the source of the voice. Then I saw him. Gu Yichin was still as tall and handsome as ever, his deep eyes showing a hint of weariness that was hard to conceal, yet his resolve was even stronger. He pushed through the crowd and walked towards me step by step, his gaze fixed intently on me as if trying to see right through me. Our eyes met and my heart went awry. In an instant, 1,000 words welled up in my heart, yet I didn't know where to begin. His appearance pulled me back to those sweet yet painful memories. You lost weight. His voice was low and hoarse, tinged with heartache. I forced back the tears welling in my eyes and forced a smile, saying, "It's all right, you look fine too." Yan Yan, come with me. Before I could finish speaking, he grabbed my hand, his tone firm and brooking no refusal. Lithe. I tried to pull my hand away, but he held it even tighter. His palms were warm and dry just as I remembered them, making me crave them yet also afraid of them. I've been looking for you these past few days. He didn't give me a chance to escape, his deep gaze fixed on my eyes as if trying to see through all my pretenses. I've taken care of the family matters. I won't let any of those who hurt you get away with it. I was stunned, the decisiveness and ruthlessness in his tone felt unfamiliar to me yet strangely reassuring. It turns out he knew everything. He knew the grievances I had suffered and the bitterness in my heart. Why are you doing this? My voice trembled slightly. Gu Yichin, we're over, aren't we? Finish. He smiled bitterly. Yan Yan, I admit that I once backed down because of family pressure, but I never thought of giving up on you. During this time, I have been regretting every moment, regretting that I didn't hold your hand tightly back then. He paused, his tone becoming even more resolute. Yan Yan, come back to me. This time I won't let go again. I want you to be my only Mrs. Gu. I want to give you a home that truly belongs to us. His words were like a warm current, slowly flowing through my cold heart and melting the last bit of ice in my heart. Yes, I loved him so much and I longed for a future with him. How could I easily let go of those sweet memories and those unforgettable loves? I looked up into his sincere eyes and tears finally welled up and streamed down my face. Yichin, don't say anything more. He gently wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes. I know you still love me, don't you? I choked up and couldn't say anything more, I just nodded forcefully. Yes, I still love him deeply, more than ever before. All the hurts and misunderstandings of the past seem insignificant at this moment. As long as I can be with him, I'm willing to give up everything and start over. Okay, he gently pulled me into his arms, as if he wanted to meld me into his very bones. At that moment, I felt an unprecedented sense of security, like a drifting ship finally finding a harbor to dock in. I know that we still have a long way to go and many challenges lie ahead. But I believe that as long as we love each other and walk hand in hand, we will definitely be able to overcome all difficulties and usher in our own happiness. Gu Yichin kept his word. He handled the family affairs swiftly and decisively, and personally went to apologize to my parents. Although his parents still harbored some resentment about what had happened before, they gradually let go of their grudges after seeing Gu Yichin's sincere attitude. Perhaps the saddest person is Grandpa Gu. When he learned that Gu Yichin and I were getting married, he just sighed deeply. Children, you choose your own path and Grandpa won't stop you. I just hope you won't regret it later. His aged voice carried a hint of helplessness but also a touch of blessing. The wedding was simple yet very heartwarming. There was no lavish pomp, no large number of guests, only our closest loved ones witnessing our happiness. Wearing a pure white wedding dress accompanied by my father, I slowly walked towards Gu Yichin. He was dressed in a black suit, with an upright posture and handsome face, as if all the light in the world had gathered on him. Mr. Gu Yichin, do you take Miss Fu Yan to be your wife? To love her, respect her, protect her, and stay with her through thick and thin, in sickness and in health until death do you part. I do, his voice was firm and strong, full of love. Miss Fu Yan, do you take Mr. Gu Yichin to be your wife? To love him, respect him, protect him, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, for better. I do. I do. Before the pastor could finish speaking, I impatiently shouted, afraid that if I was even a second late, he would disappear. At that moment, I knew that I had finally found my happiness. Sunlight streamed into the room through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow on the soft carpet. I gently stroked my bulging belly, feeling the little life inside moving with each movement, and a happy smile involuntarily appeared on my lips. What are you thinking about? Why are you laughing so happily? Gu Yichin walked over with a cup of hot milk, leaned down and gently kissed my forehead. It's nothing, I just feel that my life is really good right now. I took the milk and sipped it slowly, the delicate milky aroma filling my mouth. Yichin, who do you think our child will resemble more? Gu Yichin sat down beside me, gently placing his large hand on my stomach. I hope he'll be like you, smart, beautiful, and kind. I smiled and rolled my eyes at him. You're all talk, but I hope he's more like you, brave, strong, and responsible. We smiled at each other, our eyes shining with happiness. Dong, dong, dong. A series of urgent knocks broke the silence. I'll go open the door. Gu Yichin got up, walked to the door, and opened it. What is it? His voice carried a hint of displeasure. The butler stood outside the door, his face was pale and his forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat. Sir, something terrible has happened, the young master. Before the butler could finish speaking, Gu Yichin shoved him away abruptly. What happened to Yichin? My heart tightened, and an ominous premonition surged into my mind. When I arrived at the room, I saw Gu Yichin, who was pale-faced. He was lying on the bed, breathing weakly, with panicked doctors and nurses beside him. Yichin, Yichin. I rushed to the bedside, tightly holding his cold little hand, tears streaming down my face. Doctor, how is he? Gu Yichin's voice trembled, as if he was trying his best to suppress something. The doctor shook his head. Mr. Gu, Mrs. Gu, I'm sorry, we did our best. No, I screamed desperately, then everything went black and I passed out. When I woke up, I found myself lying in a hospital bed, with Gu Yichin sitting by the bedside, looking exhausted. Yichin, Yichin, I struggled to sit up, but he gently pressed me down. Don't worry, the doctor said he's fine. He just fainted because he was emotionally agitated and physically weak. I breathed a sigh of relief, but then I remembered what the housekeeper had said earlier, and my heart was still pounding. What exactly happened? Why did the butler say something bad has happened? Gu Yichin was silent for a moment, then got up, poured me a glass of water and handed it to me. It's nothing serious, don't worry, just focus on getting better. His eyes darted around, clearly he was hiding something from me. I took the water glass but felt even more uneasy. In order to find out the truth, I decided to investigate it myself. The next day, I took advantage of Gu Yichin going to the company and secretly slipped into his study. The study was quiet, with only the rustling of leaves outside the window. I walked to my desk, casually opened a book, and unexpectedly found several documents tucked inside. The document was covered with dense writing, and when I looked at it closely, I was stunned. Internal equity changes within the group, Gu Family Trust Fund, cash flow and overseas accounts. The contents of these documents are clearly about the internal struggles within the Gu family. My heart tightened, and an ominous premonition welled up inside me. Could it be that what Gu Yichin hid from me before is related to these documents? Just as I was engrossed in reading, the study door was suddenly pushed open. What are you looking at? Gu Yichin's voice sounded behind me, carrying a hint of coldness. I hurriedly closed the file, turned around and looked at him with feigned composure. And nothing, I was just looking around. Just looking around. He approached step by step, his eyes sharp as a knife. Fu Yan, what are you hiding? He forced me to retreat until my back hit the cold bookshelf, leaving me with nowhere to escape. His breath brushed against my face, carrying a hint of danger. I'm not hiding anything, I tried to explain, but he forcefully interrupted me. Enough. He abruptly released me, his voice filled with disappointment. Fu Yan, I thought you were an honest person, but I never expected you would lie to me. He turned and left the study, leaving me standing there alone, my mind in turmoil. I understand that his suspicions were not unfounded, but that I chose to conceal them first. But how can I tell him that I saw those documents and learned about those family secrets he deliberately concealed? I slumped into a chair, my mind replaying the contents of the document and Gu Yichin's disappointed look. Just then my phone rang. It was Lin Jiao calling. Fu Yan, it's been a long time. How have you been? Her voice was as sweet as ever, but it made me feel disgusted. Is there something you need? I asked coldly. It's nothing major, I just wanted to tell you some good news. She paused, a hint of smugness in her voice. I've been getting along very well with Yichin's mother, who is also your mother-in-law lately. We both think that you are the most suitable person for Yichin. My heart sank. Lin Jiao's words were like a thorn piercing my heart deeply. Did Yue really accept me, or is this just another of their schemes? I gripped my phone tightly, a strong sense of unease welling up inside me. Thank you for your concern, but you don't need to worry about my affairs with Yichin. I replied coldly and hung up the phone immediately. Lin Jiao's words were like a time bomb, planting a seed of unease in my heart. Will Yue really accept me? What are their motives? A series of questions swirled in my mind, refusing to dissipate. I scratched my head in frustration, deciding to stop thinking about these headaches. I forced myself to calm down and opened a business management book on my desk. Since I've decided to face this together with Gu Yichin, I must try my best to understand his world, rather than becoming a burden to him. Time flew by between the pages of the book, and before we knew it, night had fallen. Suddenly, a rapid knocking interrupted my thoughts, followed by Gu Yichin's anxious voice. Fu Yan, are you in there? Open the doors. My heart skipped a beat and I quickly put down my book and ran to open the door. Gu Yichin's face was pale, his forehead was covered in sweat, and his eyes were filled with panic and worry. What's wrong? What happened? I helped him up and asked anxiously, It's Yichin. He was breathing heavily, his voice trembling. He suddenly became critically ill and is currently being treated in the hospital. My heart sank. I had known for a long time that Gu Yichin's health had been poor, but I never expected it to deteriorate to this extent. I held Gu Yichin's hand tightly, hoping to give him some strength. We're going to the hospital now, I said firmly. The hospital corridors reeked of disinfectant, and the stark white lighting added to the oppressive atmosphere. Gu Yichin paced anxiously back and forth outside the emergency room, his hands clenched tightly together, his knuckles turning white. I stood quietly beside him, silently keeping him company. At this moment, any word seemed pale and powerless. After a long wait, the door to the emergency room finally opened. The doctor wearily removed his mask, his voice heavy. The patient is temporarily out of danger, but the situation is still not optimistic, and he needs to be hospitalized for observation. Gu Yichin finally felt relieved. He leaned weakly against the wall, his eyes reddening. I had never seen him so vulnerable before, and a wave of heartache washed over me. Yichin, you have to be strong. Yichin still needs you, I said softly. He raised his head, the vulnerability in his eyes quickly replaced by determination. I know I won't give up. At that moment, I seemed to see the heavy responsibility on his shoulders, and my determination to face the storms with him became even stronger. Days passed by amidst worry and hope. Gu Yichin's condition gradually stabilized, and I slowly integrated into this family. I started learning some family business management knowledge, hoping to share some of the pressure with Gu Yichin. That afternoon, I was organizing documents in my study when I suddenly received an unsigned package. Driven by curiosity, I opened it and found a photograph inside. The man in the photo, dressed in a suit and with distinct features, is none other than Gu Yichin. However, what shocked me even more was that he was leaning against a young and beautiful woman, and the two were behaving intimately, with happy smiles on their faces. My heart felt like it was being gripped tightly by an invisible hand, and my breathing became rapid. This photo is like a thorn, deeply embedded in my heart, bringing back all the unease and doubts I had before. Could this be the secret Lin Jiao was talking about? Is Gu Yichin really hiding something from me? I clutched the photo tightly, my fingertips turning white, my mind a jumbled mess. I wanted to believe Gu Yichin, but this photo was like a resounding slap in the face, making it impossible for me to ignore its existence. Knock, knock, knock. Just then there was a knock on the study door, and Gu Yichin's voice came from outside. Fu Yan, are you in there? I need to talk to you. I hurriedly stuffed the photo into my pocket, took a deep breath, and tried to make my voice sound calm. Come in. Gu Yichin pushed open the door and entered. Seeing my slightly pale face, he asked with concern, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" I suppressed the turmoil in my heart and shook my head. "No, I'm just a little tired." "What did you want to see me about?" He walked to my side, gently pulled me into his arms, and said tenderly, "The company matters have been taken care of. Let's go see Yichin tomorrow. He misses you very much." I leaned against his chest, listening to his strong heartbeat, and a complex emotion welled up inside me. I wanted to tell him about the photos and ask him who the woman in them was, but the words just wouldn't come out. I'm afraid of hearing answers I don't want to hear, and even more afraid of losing this hard-won relationship. "Okay," I replied softly, but my thoughts had already drifted far away. Who is the woman in the photo? And what is her relationship with Gu Yichin? All of this is like a series of huge mysteries, making it hard for me to breathe. Gu Yichin's arms were wrapped around me, but I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave. The woman in the photo and Gu Yichin's flickering eyes replayed in my mind. I took a deep breath, shoved him away, pulled the photo out of my pocket, and slammed it on the desk. "What is this? How long are you going to keep lying to me?" In the photo, Gu Yichin is dressed in a suit and looks radiant, while the woman beside him has exquisite makeup and is clinging to his arm affectionately. The two are behaving intimately, unlike ordinary friends. When Gu Yichin saw the photo, his expression changed slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. He picked up the photo, examined it carefully for a while, and a cold smile appeared on his lips. "So that's what it is. I thought it was something serious that made you act so strangely." His nonchalant tone only made me angrier. "This isn't a big deal, then tell me, who is the woman in the photo? Why is she so intimate with you?" "It's just a misunderstanding. The person in the photo is Lin Jiao. At the company party that day, she deliberately got me drunk and then had someone take this photo, trying to ruin our relationship." Gu Yichin put down the photo, walked up to me, and gently pulled me into his arms. "Fu Yan, believe me, my heart for you is as clear as the sun and moon, and I would never do anything to betray you." His eyes were sincere and his tone was firm, but I was still filled with doubt. Is that really the case? But why would Lin Jiao do that? Because of jealousy. Gu Yichin's tone was tinged with coldness. "She has liked me for a long time, but my heart belongs only to you, so she harbored resentment and came up with such despicable means." "What about Aunt Du? Why is she getting involved in this too?" I pressed for details, and my intuition told me that things weren't that simple. "I will investigate this matter thoroughly and give you an explanation." A cold glint flashed in Gu Yichin's eyes. "I will not let anyone who hurt you get away with it, including my family." His promise was like a reassuring pill, calming my anxiety slightly. I chose to believe him not only because I love him, but also because of the determination and resolve in his eyes. "What do you want to do?" I looked up at him, my voice tinged with worry. Gu Yichin gently stroked my hair, a confident smile playing on his lips. "Don't worry, I won't act rashly. Since Lin Jiao and Aunt Du dared to do this, they must have left clues. I will find the evidence and expose their true colors." Over the next few days, Gu Yichin began to investigate the matter. He used all available resources to secretly collect evidence of Lin Jiao and Aunt Du's crimes. Under Gu Yichin's guidance, I began to learn how to protect myself and how to survive in this complicated family. "Remember, you are not fighting alone." Gu Yichin held my hand, his eyes firm. "You have me and many others who care about you. We will all support you." With Gu Yichin's help, I gradually shed my weak image and began to show my strong and independent side. I actively participated in family gatherings and communicated with elders, which gradually won me the support of some people. "Yan Yan, you've really changed a lot." Lu Mingxuan looked at me with satisfaction in his eyes. "You are more confident and more charming than before." I smiled and said nothing. I know that my transformation is inseparable from Gu Yichin. He gave me strength and the courage to face everything. Lin Jiao has been acting strangely lately. She used to always want to be near me, but now she avoids me like the plague. At family gatherings, she was always absent-minded, her eyes darting around as if she had something on her mind. On one occasion, I saw her and Aunt Du whispering in the garden, both of them looking very unhappy. I hid behind the bushes and vaguely heard words like Gu Yichin, evidence, and escape. My heart sank. Had they already figured something out? I told Gu Yichin about this, and after hearing it, a cold glint flashed in his deep eyes. It seems they're starting to panic. His tone was calm, yet carried a powerful sense of pressure. In that case, let's trap them like turtles in a jar. Gu Yichin decided to use an upcoming family meeting to set a trap for Lin Jiao and Aunt Du. This meeting is crucial as it concerns the next steps in the family business's development, and all family members will be in attendance. At that time, I will throw out a bait at the meeting to throw them into disarray. Gu Yichin confidently told me, all you have to do is stay calm and trust me. On the day of the meeting, I wore the dress that Gu Yichin had carefully chosen for me, trying my best to appear calm and composed. My palms were sweaty and my heart was pounding, but I told myself I couldn't panic and I had to trust Gu Yichin. Family members arrived one after another in the meeting room, creating a solemn and respectful atmosphere. Lin Jiao and Aunt Du also arrived. Although they tried their best to remain calm, I could still sense the panic and unease in their eyes. Gu Yichin sat beside me, holding my hand and giving me silent encouragement. I knew the moment to make a decisive move was approaching. Gu Yichin slowly stood up, exuding an aura that was hard to ignore, and the previously noisy conference room instantly fell silent. He cleared his throat, his tone calm yet carrying an undeniable authority. Today, in addition to the direction of the family business, I have another very important matter to announce. His gaze swept over the crowd, finally settling on Lin Jiao and Du Yue, a meaningful smile curving his lips. I believe everyone has heard about my relationship with Fu Yan. He paused, placing a file folder on the table. Inside are some photos that I would like everyone to take a look at. Lin Jiao's face turned deathly pale instantly. She instinctively tried to rush forward and snatch the file bag, but Du Yue held her back tightly. Although Du Yue was also flustered, she remained relatively calm. She forced herself to be composed and said, Yi Chen, what are you doing? Today is a family meeting. How can you behave like this? Nonsense. Gu Yichin sneered, picked up the photos from the file bag and showed them to everyone one by one. I think Aunt Du and Lin Jiao should be very familiar with these photos, right? The photos show the intimate scenes between me and another man that Lin Jiao deliberately created that night. In the photo, I'm all smiles, behaving intimately with that man. We seem to have a close relationship. I heard whispers around me, and everyone looked at me with suspicion and disdain. I bit my lip, suppressing the humiliation in my heart, and looked to Gu Yichin for help. He gave me a reassuring look and continued, I think everyone might have misunderstood actually. Before he could finish speaking, Lin Jiao suddenly went berserk, rushed in front of me and raised her hand to slap me. I instinctively closed my eyes, but the expected pain did not come. I opened my eyes and saw Gu Yichin holding Lin Jiao's hand tightly. His eyes were icy cold as if they could freeze a person. Yichin, calm down. Listen to me. Lin Jiao trembled with fear at Gu Yichin's gaze, trying to explain incoherently, but he wouldn't listen and shoved her away. After the family meeting that day, Gu Yichin withdrew all financial support from Lin Jiao and Du Yue. They lost their former life of luxury, moved out of the mansion and moved into a small rented room. Du Yue, used to being a wealthy lady, couldn't bear this kind of hardship. She sighed all day long, complaining about Lin Jiao's impulsiveness and stupidity. Lin Jiao was also feeling bad. Without the luxuries and the attention from her suitors, she began to miss the old days and reflect on her actions. One day, Du Yue went out to buy groceries and saw a shocking scene at a coffee shop on the street corner. Through the transparent glass window, Gu Yichin and I sat by the window chatting and laughing, and he was holding an adorable child in his arms. The child smiled sweetly at me, and I gently wiped the cake crumbs from the corner of his mouth. That scene stung Du Yue's eyes. Du Yue returned home dejectedly, locked herself in her room and burst into tears. She remembered that although Gu Yichin was indifferent to her, he would at least give her living expenses every month and visit her during holidays. But since that family meeting, he has never appeared again. She thought that as long as she pleased Gu Yichin, she could continue to live a comfortable life. But she never expected that she would end up losing both her money and her lover. Lin Jiao, ever since moving into this cramped rental apartment, has been depressed. Without beautiful clothes, exquisite makeup, or the men who fawned over her, she felt as if she had fallen from the clouds into the mud, and all the assets she was once proud of had become a joke. Looking at her haggard reflection in the mirror, Lin Jiao began to doubt her own actions for the first time. Was she really wrong? Jiao, I've decided to write a letter to Fu Yan. Du Yue suddenly pushed open the door and said in a heavy tone. Lin Jiao looked up, a hint of surprise flashing in her eyes. Write a letter? What kind of letter? Du Yue took a deep breath, her eyes filled with remorse. An apology letter, apologizing for the wrong things we did before. Today I saw her and Yichen, the three of them, so happy. I suddenly realized how foolish I was in the past. We hurt them and ruined ourselves. Lin Jiao fell silent. She looked at the wrinkles at the corners of Du Yue's eyes, the marks left by time and regret. She once thought Du Yue was omnipotent and could help her get everything, but now she felt like a lost child, filled with helplessness and confusion. Perhaps we really should apologize. Lin Jiao muttered to herself, her tone tinged with uncertainty. A few days later, I received a letter from an unknown number. The envelope was unsigned, except for a string of neat handwriting that read my name and address. I hesitated for a moment before opening the envelope. The letter was written by Du Yue. In a repentant tone, she recounted everything she had done over the years, including how she sowed discord between me and Gu Yichen, and how she resorted to any means to gain profit. His words were filled with regret and self-blame. She said that seeing how happy Gu Yichen and I were with our child made her realize her past mistakes, and she sincerely hoped to be forgiven by me. After reading the letter, I felt a mix of emotions. To be honest, I can't easily forgive them for the harm they caused to me and Gu Yichen. Those painful memories are like sharp stones deeply piercing my heart. But looking at the words on the letter stained with tears, I couldn't help but think that perhaps everyone should have a chance to turn over a new leaf. Besides, they have already received the punishment they deserved, so why should I cling to the past? I put down the letter and let out a long sigh. Not long after, Lin Jiao also found me and Gu Yichen. That day she wore simple clothes, her face was free of her usual heavy makeup, and her eyes held a sincere sense of apology. Fu Yan, Yichen, I'm sorry, I was wrong before. With her head bowed and her voice choked with emotion, she said, I was blinded by jealousy and did many things that hurt you. I now realize my mistakes and am reaping the consequences. I hope you can give me a chance and I will change my ways. Looking at this once arrogant girl now humbly apologizing to me, I felt no pleasure, but rather an indescribable sense of complexity. Let bygones be bygones. I said calmly, I hope you can truly repent and start anew in the future. Lin Jiao looked up at me gratefully and nodded vigorously. Gu Yichen walked over, gently put his arm around my shoulder, his eyes tender yet firm. We should all look forward, he said. They have already paid the price for their actions and we don't need to live in the shadow of the past. I nodded, watching Lin Jiao's lonely figure, my heart filled with mixed emotions. She had once been such a dazzling presence, but now she was like a butterfly with broken wings, having lost her former brilliance. Perhaps this is life. Everyone has to pay the price for their choices. Gu Yichen and I chose to let go of the past, but that doesn't mean we've forgotten it. Those pains will become a part of our lives, reminding us to cherish the present and cherish each other. Life gradually returned to normal, and Gu Yichen and I lived a simple and happy life with our child. Occasionally, we would receive letters from afar, sent by Du Yue. In her letter, she told us about her recent situation, and between the lines, she was filled with regret and longing for the future. However, just when we thought everything had settled down, a phone call shattered our peaceful life. On the other end of the phone was a strange and anxious voice. Is this Miss Fu Yan? I'm Lin Jiao's friend. She's in the hospital right now. My heart sank suddenly and an ominous premonition came over me. What happened to Lin Jiao? Is fate about to play another cruel joke on her? The voice on the other end of the phone was choked with sobs, saying haltingly, Jiao she committed suicide. My head buzzed and I almost dropped my phone. Gu Yichen steadied me and asked in a deep voice, what happened? His calmness helped me regain some composure. I took a deep breath and asked urgently, which hospital is she in? After hanging up the phone, Gu Yichen and I immediately drove to the hospital. All the way there, my heart felt like it was being gripped tightly by an invisible hand, making it hard to breathe. Lin Jiao, that once proud and dazzling girl, how could she choose such a path? When we arrived at the hospital, we found Lin Jiao's friend. With tears in her eyes, she told us that Lin Jiao had attempted suicide by overdosing on sleeping pills. Fortunately, she was discovered in time and is now out of danger, but is still in a coma. Looking at Lin Jiao, who was pale and lifeless on the hospital bed, I felt a mix of emotions. If it weren't for her choice back then, perhaps her life would have been completely different. Gu Yichen held my hand tightly. His palm was warm and dry, giving me immense strength. I know that no matter what happens, he will be by my side. In the days that followed, Gu Yichen and I took turns going to the hospital to take care of Lin Jiao. The day she woke up when she saw us, a complex emotion flashed in her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. "Why did you do that?" I asked her, my tone tinged with reproach. She gave a bitter smile. "I'm just tired and want to be free." I know she hasn't let go of the past. Those painful memories still torment her like a nightmare. I sighed and said nothing more. Some things she can only figure out on her own. I started to devote more of my energy to my work. My educational philosophy has gained increasing recognition from parents and students, and my training classes have grown larger and larger. I have begun to truly feel that I am doing something meaningful, which makes me feel incredibly fulfilled and happy. Gu Yichin is getting busier and busier. After a difficult start, his company is now developing rapidly and has become a rising star in the industry. I often see his name in financial news and hear him talk eloquently about business strategies, which fills me with a sense of pride. "Mom, Dad's on TV again," my son's clear voice interrupted my thoughts. I put down my book, walked over to my son, and asked him with a smile, "Sweetie, do you want Daddy to always be with you, or do you want Daddy to work hard and become your pride?" The son tilted his head and thought for a moment, then said seriously, "I hope Dad is like Superman, protecting me while saving the world." I was amused by his innocent words, ruffled his hair and said, "Daddy is trying hard to become a superhero. You should cheer him on." On weekends, Gu Yichin would try his best to put aside work and accompany us and our son to go on outings in the countryside or to amusement parks. Watching him push the swing in the sunlight, a happy smile on his face, I truly felt that the man in front of me had shed his former immaturity and sharpness, becoming more mature, steady, warm, and gentle. "Dad, push me up a little higher, I want to fly to the sky." The son shouted excitedly on the swing. "Okay, hold on tight," Gu Yichin replied with a smile, increasing the pressure on his hand. I stood to the side, watching the father and son's happy figures, my heart filled with happiness and gratitude. After weathering so many storms, we have finally ushered in our own peace and happiness. Watching the father and son chasing and playing on the lawn, I couldn't help but think of Lu Mingxuan. Since the last gathering, he seems to have found inspiration for love, and he has become radiant. "Oh right, Mingxuan said he's bringing his girlfriend over for dinner this weekend, and he wants to formally introduce her to us," I said to Gu Yichin, who was wiping his son's sweat. "Oh. Looks like good things are on the horizon." Gu Yichin raised an eyebrow. "Good, it's time to let him settle down." The weekend dinner was more lively than I expected. Lu Mingxuan's girlfriend is named Su Qing. She is a gentle and quiet girl, whose personality complements Mingxuan's perfectly. During the meal, Su Qing was poised and spoke eloquently, quickly becoming acquainted with us. "Sister-in-law, your love story with Yichin is so romantic, it's like a novel." Su Qing's eyes sparkled with envy. I glanced at Gu Yichin with a smile and he coughed lightly, feigning displeasure. "What love story?" "It's all old news." "No way," I retorted. "Our story could go on for 3 days and 3 nights." Seeing us bickering, Lu Mingxuan and Su Qing both laughed. After dinner, the two men discussed work in the study, while Su Qing and I chatted in the living room. "Sister-in-law, you really have a great presence. No wonder Brother Yichin is so infatuated with you." Su Qing exclaimed sincerely. I smiled and said, "Actually, it hasn't been easy for us to get to where we are today. We've gone through a lot of misunderstandings and hardships along the way. But thankfully, we finally decided that we were right for each other." Su Qing listened attentively to my story, her eyes filled with longing for love. Looking at her, I felt like I was seeing myself back then, full of expectations and fantasies about love. After seeing Lu Mingxuan and Su Qing off, Gu Yichin and I snuggled up on the sofa, enjoying a rare moment of peace and quiet. "Time flies in the blink of an eye. We've been married for so many years," I said with emotion. "Yes, thankfully we didn't miss each other." Gu Yichin looked at me affectionately. "Yan Yan, when the child is a little older, let's travel together and see the beautiful scenery of the world." "Okay," I readily agreed. "Let's create more wonderful memories together." I believe that in the days to come, we will continue to walk hand in hand, facing life's ups and downs together, because our love has become even deeper and stronger with the passage of time. In recent years, I have devoted myself to education, and my educational philosophy has gained increasing recognition from parents and students. Watching the children learn happily and grow healthily under my guidance fills me with a sense of accomplishment. Gu Yichin's career is also thriving, and his company has developed into a leading enterprise in the industry. Despite his busy work schedule, he always makes time for me and the children. On a weekend afternoon, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, filling the entire living room and adding warmth to the already cozy room. I was preparing afternoon tea in the kitchen, while Gu Yichin was playing with his son in the garden. "Mom, look how pretty the castle I built is." The son's sweet, childlike voice came from the garden, full of anticipation. I carried a fruit platter to the garden and looked at the castle my son had built with blocks. I smiled and praised him. "You're amazing, baby. This is the most beautiful castle I've ever seen." My son giggled happily after hearing my praise. Gu Yichin looked at his son with doting eyes, his gaze full of affection. "Dad, let's play hide and seek," the son suddenly suggested. "Okay, you go hide and Dad will catch you," Gu Yichin readily agreed. Watching the father and son chasing and playing on the lawn, a happy smile couldn't help but appear on my lips. Just then my phone rang, breaking the silence. I picked up my phone and saw an unfamiliar number on the screen. I hesitated for a moment, then pressed the answer button. "Hello, is this Miss Fu Yan?" A strange female voice came from the other end of the phone. "Yes, that's me, and who are you?" I asked, puzzled. "I am." The voice on the other end of the phone paused suddenly, then, as if gathering its courage, said urgently, "I am Lin Jiaojio." My heart sank suddenly, and an ominous premonition came over me. Lin Jiaojio, this name is like a thorn deeply embedded in my heart, reminding me of that unbearable past. Lin Jiaojio. My fingers tightened slightly around my phone and my tone unconsciously turned cold. "What do you want from me?" Lin Jiaojio on the other end of the phone seemed oblivious to my displeasure, continuing, "Fu Yan, I know you're with Yi Chen now. I'm calling just to tell you that Yi Chen and I used to." "Beep beep." I hung up the phone before she could finish speaking. It felt like a huge rock was pressing on my chest, making it hard for me to breathe. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my turbulent emotions. "What's wrong?" Gu Yichin noticed my unusual behavior and asked with concern. I forced a smile and shook my head. "It's nothing, just a nuisance call." Although I said I was fine, this incident still left a shadow in my heart. I couldn't help but wonder what Gu Yichin's past was like. Did he really love me? A few days later, the Gu family held a family gathering. I didn't want to go at first, but Gu Yichin insisted on taking me, saying that he wanted me to gradually integrate into his family. At the party, elegantly dressed people mingled and glasses clinked in celebration. I maintained a polite smile throughout, but inside I was filled with unease. "Yichin, do you remember that girl I mentioned to you last time? She comes from a well-off family, is beautiful and generous, and is a perfect match for you." Du Yue suddenly spoke, her tone tinged with a hint of probing. Gu Yichin frowned slightly and replied calmly, "Mom, I'm already married. Fu Yan is my wife. You can get divorced even if you're married." Du Yue waved her hand dismissively. "Besides, you and Fu Yan have only known each other for a short time. How deep could your feelings be?" My fingers tightened around the wine glass, and my heart felt like it was being gripped tightly by an invisible hand, making it almost impossible for me to breathe. "Mom," Gu Yichin interrupted Du Yue sternly, "Fu Yan and I love each other very much, and we will not get a divorce." Du Yue wanted to say something more, but was stopped by a sharp look from Gu Yichin. I tried to remain calm, but inside I was in turmoil. Just then, a servant walked up to Du Yue and whispered a few words to her. A meaningful smile immediately appeared on Du Yue's face. "Everyone, I have an announcement to make." Du Yue cleared her throat and said loudly, "To celebrate Yi Chen and Fu Yan's marriage, I have decided to hold a grand wedding for them in a month." As soon as Du Yue finished speaking, everyone present cast their blessings our way, as if we were truly immersed in the joy of our wedding. I smiled politely in response, but my heart was filled with bitterness. A wedding? This was nothing more than a charade she staged to break us up. After I got home, I kept forcing a smile, not wanting Gu Yichin to worry about me. But who is he? How could my little thoughts escape his eyes? Still thinking about today's events, he pulled me into his arms, his tone gentle yet tinged with worry. I remained silent for a moment, but finally couldn't help asking, "Have you really loved someone else before?" Gu Yichin was taken aback for a moment, then understood what I meant. He gently stroked my hair, his voice low and earnest. "Silly girl, all of that is in the past. Before I met you, my life was bleak, and you brought me light and warmth. I love you, Fu Yan, more than anything." His words were like the warm sun in winter, dispelling the gloom in my heart. I looked up and gazed into his deep eyes, where I saw only my reflection, filled with love. I finally felt relieved and believed that what he said was true. Let bygones be bygones. What matters is the present. We love each other, and that's enough. Gu Yichin's words reassured me a lot, but the unease in my heart seemed to have taken root, and I couldn't shake it off. The atmosphere was a little awkward during dinner. I ate in silence, while Gu Yichin would put food in my bowl from time to time, his eyes full of concern. Suddenly, a little chubby hand reached out, holding a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs, and a child said in a sweet, childish voice, "Mommy, eat ribs. Daddy's ribs are the best." Looking at this clever little kid in front of me, a wave of tenderness washed over me. He must have sensed the strange atmosphere between me and Gu Yichin, which is why he tried to ease the tension in this way. I smiled and took the ribs, then patted his head. Thank you, baby. Mommy loves daddy's ribs the most. The little guy laughed happily when he heard what I said, his eyes narrowing into slits. He turned to look at Gu Yichin and said in a childish voice, Daddy, look, Mommy says she loves your ribs the most. Gu Yichin looked at us, a smile playing on his lips. He reached out and pulled me and the child into his arms, saying gently, I'm glad you like it. Dad will cook for you every day from now on. At that moment, I felt incredibly happy and warm. No matter how much Duyue tries to sabotage things, she can't ruin the happiness of our family of three. However, I underestimated Duyue's persistence. After dinner, she used the excuse of needing to discuss company matters with Gu Yichin to call him into the study. Although I was a little worried, I didn't think too much about it. Yichin, are you really determined to marry that woman? In the study, Duyue's voice was sharp and piercing. She and you are from completely different worlds. She will destroy everything you have. My affairs are none of your concern. Gu Yichin's tone was icy, devoid of any warmth. I have made my decision. Fu Yan is my wife and your future daughter-in-law. I hope you can respect my choice. Respect? How can you expect me to respect her? She's a woman from a humble background. Why should she marry you? Have you forgotten what you promised me? Du Yue became agitated and her voice turned shrill. Enough. Gu Yichin suddenly stood up, interrupting Du Yue. I'll say it again, I'll handle my own affairs, I don't need you to interfere. I stood outside the study, listening to the arguing coming from inside, and felt a chill run through me. Du Yue's words were like poisoned needles, piercing my heart. I then realized that the gap between Gu Yichin and me was not only a difference in social status, but also his domineering mother. The sounds of a heated argument in the study were like an invisible blade, separating Gu Yichin and me into two different worlds. I could almost feel Du Yue's intense hatred. She hated me for taking away the heart of her proud son. I turned and left, not wanting to listen anymore, nor having the strength to listen anymore. Back in my room, I forced myself to stop thinking about those upsetting things and buried myself in books. But the words on the pages seemed to mock my avoidance. I just couldn't concentrate. A few days later, Du Yue suddenly announced that she would hold a grand family banquet to celebrate the recent achievements of Gu Yichin's company. I knew in my heart that this was just another provocation from her. She wanted to embarrass me in front of all my relatives and friends, to let everyone know that I was not good enough for Gu Yichin. The moment Gu Yichin received the banquet invitation, his face instantly darkened. He gripped the gold-embossed invitation tightly, the veins on the back of his hand bulging as if he wanted to crush it. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. A cold glint flashed in his deep eyes, his tone firm yet carrying a subtle tenderness. I knew this banquet was destined to be a trap. Du Yue meticulously planned all of this, just waiting for me to walk right into her trap. I took a deep breath and told myself that I couldn't back down or be afraid. I grasped Gu Yichin's hand and gave him a firm look. Let's face it together. On the day of the banquet, I wore the dress that Gu Yichin had specially prepared for me. The light blue dress accentuated my fair skin, and the hem was adorned with tiny diamonds that sparkled beautifully under the lights. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress my anxiety, and took Gu Yichin's arm as we entered the banquet hall. Inside the magnificent banquet hall, elegantly dressed women mingled, and glasses clinked in celebration. The crystal chandelier emitted a dazzling light, illuminating the entire hall as if it were daytime. Amidst the melodious music, guests chatted and laughed, creating a lively scene. Du Yue, dressed in a red gown, stood gracefully in the center of the crowd, a polite smile on her face like a kind and amiable elder. But I know that beneath that smile lies scheming and ruthlessness. Yichin, you've arrived. When Du Yue saw us, her smile widened, but when her gaze fell on me, it was like an ice pick, sending chills down my spine. Just as I was about to greet them, a sweet, coquettish voice suddenly interrupted. Brother Yichin, you're really not being fair. You came to the banquet without inviting me. Looking in the direction of the sound, one could see Lin Jiao walking gracefully towards them in a white evening gown, with exquisite makeup and a sweet smile on her face. She affectionately took Gu Yichin's other arm, deliberately showing off to me. I suppressed my displeasure and tried to pull my hand away without showing any emotion, but Gu Yichin held it tightly. He gave Lin Jiao a cold look, his tone carrying a hint of warning. Why are you here? You're not welcome here. Lin Jiao's face stiffened for a moment, but she quickly regained her smile, feigning grievance as she said, Brother Yichin, how could you say that? I'm here to celebrate for you too. By the way, who is this? She pretended not to recognize me, turning her gaze to me with a hint of disdain in her eyes. And this is my girlfriend Fu Yan's. Before I could speak, Gu Yichin interrupted her directly, his tone firm and leaving no room for argument. Girlfriend? Lin Jiao covered her mouth in feigned surprise. I heard that Brother Yichin's girlfriend comes from a prestigious family and received an excellent education from a young age. I know she's deliberately bringing up my background to embarrass me. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails almost dug into my flesh, trying hard to control myself and not lose my composure. I took a deep breath and was about to retort when I heard Gu Yichin say calmly, "Family background is nothing but external things. What I admire is Fu Yan's independence and talent." As he spoke, he pulled me closer, gazing at me tenderly. "Besides," he said, "Fu Yan, who comes from a scholarly family, is 100 times better than some people in terms of speech and demeanor." His words, filled with undisguised protection and admiration, instantly eased my awkwardness. I gave him a grateful look and my unease subsided somewhat. I smiled confidently and said to Lin Jiao in a natural and generous manner, "Miss Lin is too kind. One's background does not represent everything. What matters is one's own efforts and pursuits. Although I do not have a distinguished family background, I believe that with my own efforts, I can still create my own value in life." My words were neither humble nor arrogant. I neither deliberately avoided mentioning my background nor felt inferior because of it. On the contrary, they displayed a confident and independent demeanor. Some of the guests present nodded and cast admiring glances at me. Lin Jiao didn't expect me to react this way, and the smile on her face immediately faded. She wanted to say something more, but Du Yue pulled her aside. Du Yue scolded her in a low voice, then walked towards us with 2 glasses of red wine. "Yichin, this must be Miss Fu Yan, right? She is indeed talented and beautiful, no wonder she has won your favor." As Du Yue spoke, she handed me a glass of red wine, saying, "Here, try this red wine from my collection, I prepared it especially for you." I took the glass and politely said thank you. The red wine in the glass was a deeper color than usual and had a faint aroma, but I felt the aroma was a bit strange, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. "What, Miss Fu Yan, do you not like this wine?" Seeing that I hadn't drunk any, Du Yue's tone carried a hint of dissatisfaction. I was hesitating whether to drink or not when Gu Yichin suddenly reached out and took the glass from my hand, saying calmly, "She can't hold her liquor, so I'll drink this glass for her." After saying that, he downed the glass of red wine in one gulp. I looked at him in surprise, a warm feeling welling up inside me. Du Yue's expression was rather unpleasant. She forced a smile and said, "Yi Chen is so considerate. Miss Fu Yan is truly blessed." I noticed that Gu Yichin frowned slightly after drinking the wine but quickly relaxed. He handed the empty wine glass to the waiter next to him, then put his arm around my shoulder and led me through the crowd, where we chatted with some elders and friends. Just then, a soft, sweet voice rang in my ear. "Pretty sister, are you here to see your father?" I looked down and saw a little boy in a suit looking up at me curiously. He has big, watery eyes, fair skin, and delicate features, making him look as cute as a porcelain doll. "Who are you?" I couldn't help but ask. "I am Gu Yichin, and Gu Yichin is my older brother," the little boy replied in a childish voice. Then I remembered that Gu Yichin had a younger brother who had been recuperating abroad due to poor health and had only recently returned. "Yichin is so cute." I smiled and patted his head. "Thank you, beautiful lady." Gu Yichin smiled sweetly, revealing 2 adorable dimples. "Then do you know who I am?" I teased him on purpose. Gu Yichin tilted his head and thought for a moment, then shook his head. "I don't know. I'm your brother's girlfriend, you should call me." Before I could finish speaking, Gu Yichin interrupted me. "Fu Yan, stop fooling around." As he spoke, he picked up Gu Yichin and said to me, "Yichin just got back and isn't used to many things yet. I'll take him to rest for a bit." I nodded and watched them leave. Watching Gu Yichin and Gu Yichin's intimate figures from behind, a strange sense of loss suddenly welled up in my heart. I stood alone in the corner, watching Gu Yichin's back, my heart filled with mixed feelings. His gentleness and thoughtfulness captivated me, but I always felt that he was far away from me, like he was on a cloud and I was just an admirer. "Fu Yan, what are you doing standing here in a daze?" Lu Mingxuan came over at some point and handed me a glass of juice. I took the juice and smiled at him. "It's nothing, I just feel a bit stuffy because there are so many people." Lu Mingxuan followed my gaze to Gu Yichin and sighed softly. He's always been like that since he was little, not good with words, but actually very soft-hearted. I looked at him with some surprise. "You know him very well." Lu Mingxuan shook his head with a wry smile. "He and I grew up together, but he has changed a lot over the years and I can't see through him anymore." At this moment, Du Yue's voice suddenly rang out, attracting everyone's attention. She stood in the center of the banquet hall, a polite smile on her face, but she couldn't hide the smugness in her eyes. Today, in addition to thanking everyone for attending the banquet, I have an important announcement to make. She glanced around, her gaze finally settling on me, a meaningful smile playing on her lips. Yichen's father and I have decided to hold our wedding in a month. I was stunned, my mind went completely blank. What, a wedding? Du Yue is going to marry Gu Yichen's father then? What about Gu Yichen? The surrounding area immediately erupted in a cacophony of voices and discussions. I mechanically turned my head, trying to find Gu Yichen, but I only saw him standing in the crowd, his face gloomy and devoid of any emotion. Yichen, come here, Du Yue beckoned to him. Gu Yichen walked over silently and stood beside Du Yue like an emotionless statue. I know that Yichen may not be able to accept me yet, but I believe that time will prove everything. As Du Yue spoke, she affectionately took Gu Yichen's arm, her face full of victor's pride. I will definitely become a good wife and a good mother. My heart felt like it had been ripped open, and the pain spread throughout my body. Mother, good mother, does she deserve that title? What right does she have to say such things? Just then, Gu Yichen suddenly turned his head, locked his gaze on me, and parted his thin lips to utter a sentence that shocked me. No, you are wrongs. You are wrongs. Gu Yichen's voice wasn't loud, but it clearly reached everyone's ears. The banquet hall fell silent instantly, you could hear a pin drop. I stared at him in disbelief, not understanding what he meant by that. Du Yue clearly hadn't expected him to contradict her in public, and her smile froze slightly. Yichen, what are you saying? I don't understand. I'm telling you, you will never be a good wife or a good mother. Gu Yichen coldly shook off her hand, his gaze piercing, because you simply don't deserve it. Du Yue's face turned deathly pale instantly, and a hint of panic flashed in her eyes, but she quickly calmed down. Yichen, I know you're still angry with me, but we can resolve our issues privately. There's no need to make things so awkward, is there? Making a scene, Gu Yichen sneered, pulling a document from his pocket and holding it high. Do you think I don't know your purpose in approaching my father? Do you think I don't know what you're holding? My heart sank. Did he know that Du Yue had access to company secrets? Du Yue's expression changed drastically and her voice became shrill. What nonsense are you spouting? I don't understand. Is that so? Gu Yichen calmly opened the document. I think you should be very familiar with this document, right? It contains evidence of how you have abused your position to embezzle company assets over the years, and even colluded with outsiders to try to steal company secrets. You actually investigated me. Du Yue pointed at Gu Yichen in a fit of rage, but couldn't utter a single word. We're not investigating you, we're waiting for you to walk right into our trap. Gu Yichen threw the documents at her feet. Du Yue, let me tell you, you better pray that these things never leak out otherwise. He paused, then said word by word, I will make you pay a terrible price. Du Yue felt as if all her strength had been drained away, collapsing to the ground, her face as pale as paper. People around her began to whisper, their gazes filled with disdain and contempt. My heart felt like it was being tightly gripped by something, and it ached in waves. I know that this war has only just begun. The banquet ended unhappily, and Gu Yichen and I took the adorable child home. We didn't speak a word the whole way. The atmosphere in the carriage was so oppressive it was hard to breathe. Dad, Mom, don't worry, I will protect you. The adorable toddler suddenly hugged my leg and said in a sweet, childish voice. I looked down at him, forcing back the tears welling up in my eyes, and managed a smile. Honey, thank you, but this is a complicated matter, not something you can handle. No, I can do it. The little guy broke free from my embrace and ran to the study. A moment later, he came running back with a tablet computer. Mom and Dad's, look. I took the tablet and found that it displayed a surveillance video. The video was recorded this afternoon in the hotel garden. In the video, Du Yue is on the phone with a man. Although it is impossible to hear what they are saying, Du Yue's expression and tone show that she is very agitated, even somewhat hysterical. Who is this man? I asked, puzzled. I don't know, but I heard him say, don't worry, everything is going according to plan, the little girl said, pointing at the man on the screen. My heart skipped a beat. Could there be someone else behind Du Yue? It seems we need to investigate this man thoroughly. Gu Yichen said in a deep voice, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. Over the next few days, Gu Yichen and I began to investigate Du Yue's background. We discovered that before marrying Gu Yichen's father, Du Yue worked for a foreign company. The boss behind this company was a very mysterious figure. No one knew his true identity, only that his surname was Zhao and that he had the power to influence the business world. Could it be that the person behind Du Yue is this mysterious Mr. Zhao? The thought flashed through my mind like lightning. Gu Yichen and I exchanged a glance, both harboring the same suspicion. To confirm our idea, we decided to start with the foreign company where Du Yue had previously worked. Gu Yichin used his connections and quickly found out that the company had been acquired by a company called Huyu Group, and the chairman of Huyu Group was the mysterious Mr. Zhao. Everything seemed to be becoming clearer, yet it was also shrouded in a layer of mist, making it difficult to see clearly. Gu Yichin and I tried to contact some former employees of Huju Group in hopes of obtaining some useful information, but we repeatedly ran into obstacles. Some people are evasive and talk about other things. Others simply avoid us altogether, as if we were some kind of monster. What makes us even more uneasy is that we have been able to sense that someone is secretly following and monitoring us all this time. Our phones seem to be being monitored, with strange static appearing during every call. Our emails have also been hacked, and some important files have disappeared. Mom, look. That day, Gu Yichin and I were discussing countermeasures in the study when our adorable child suddenly poked his head in from outside the door, holding a piece of paper in his hand. What is this? I took the paper he handed me and found some strange symbols drawn on it. I found this on my dad's computer. Every time those uncles come over, they open this page and talk to the computer, the little girl said, pointing to the symbols on the paper. Upon closer inspection, I gasped in shock. These symbols are not meaningless graffiti, but a kind of encrypted code. Could it be that someone is manipulating all of this behind the scenes, and the tool they use to transmit information is this encrypted code? A thought suddenly flashed through my mind. If we could crack this code, wouldn't we be able to find out their plans and the mastermind behind it all? Gu Yichin immediately contacted his friend in the tech department, hoping to crack the code. A few days later, his friend brought good news. The code had been cracked, and it contained crucial information about a transnational corporate espionage case. The target company was none other than Gu Yichin's. It seems we are getting closer and closer to the truth. Gu Yichin's tone carried a hint of coldness, but my heart felt even more uneasy. If all of this is true, then what is the mastermind's purpose? Why are they targeting Gu Yichin? We decided to turn the tables and deliberately release some false information to lure the mastermind behind the scenes to reveal themselves. Sure enough, not long after, an unfamiliar number called Gu Yichin's phone. "Mr. Gu, it's been a long time." The voice on the other end of the phone was deep and hoarse, yet it carried a chilling coldness. "It seems you've discovered something interesting." "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" Gu Yichin asked, barely suppressing his anger. "Who I am is not important. What is important is that I know what you want." The other party didn't answer Gu Yichin's question, but instead changed the subject. "Do you want to know the truth about your father's car accident? Do you want to know who orchestrated all of this? I can tell you the answer, but you must agree to one condition." The other person's words exploded in my ears like thunder. Gu Yichin's father's car accident has always been a knot in his heart. Could there be another hidden story behind this? I gripped Gu Yichin's hand tightly, feeling the trembling in it, and my heart pounded in my chest. "What are the conditions?" Gu Yichin's voice was hoarse, filled with suppressed pain. "I want you to leave Fu Yan." "Leave me?" I could hardly believe my ears. The other party had actually made such an unreasonable request. Gu Yichin's face turned ashen. He was clearly enraged by the other party's shamelessness. The person on the other end of the phone chuckled, as if mocking our ignorance. "What, you can't bear to part with him? Don't forget, your father's life and the safety of your family are all in my hands." "You're despicable," I couldn't help but yell angrily into the phone. "Do you think you can threaten us like this?" "Threat?" "No, I'm just giving you a choice." The other person's voice remained calm, yet it sent chills down one's spine. "Think carefully, do you want your company or your family and loved ones?" After saying that, the other party hung up the phone, leaving only the jarring, busy tone on the phone. Gu Yichin's knuckles were white as he gripped his phone. I knew he must be going through immense torment. "Gu Yichin, don't listen to him. We can't bow down to evil forces." I held his hand tightly, wanting to give him strength. "I know, but..." Gu Yichin closed his eyes in pain. "I can't risk your safety and that of our family." I understand his concerns. If the other party were to really go so far as to attack us, the consequences would be unimaginable. But is there really no other way to just give up the company and all his hard work over the years? "No, there must be another way," I said firmly. "We can call the police, we can seek legal help." Gu Yichin shook his head and gave a bitter smile. "It's no use. Since the other party dared to do this, they must have made thorough preparations. We have no evidence, so even if we call the police, it will be of no use." Just when we were at our wits' end, the adorable child who had been silent all along suddenly spoke up. "Daddy, we can be like Superman and defeat the bad guys." The child's words were like a bolt of lightning, instantly illuminating the fog before our eyes. Yes, why must we always be the ones to passively take a beating? We can take the initiative, find the opponent's weaknesses, and turn defeat into victory. A bold plan gradually took shape in my mind. Gu Yichin, we can't just sit here and wait to die. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Do you believe me? He raised his head, a complex light flickering in his deep eyes. I believe you, but... No buts, I interrupted him. We can't just give up like this. We have to fight back. I laid out my plan in its entirety. After listening, Gu Yichin frowned, clearly indicating that my plan was too risky. However, he did not immediately dismiss it but instead fell into deep thought. This is too dangerous, he said in a low voice. I don't want you to get hurt. I know what you're worried about, I said, holding his hand firmly. But if we do nothing, we'll just be at their mercy. I won't let you face all of this alone. Just then the little boy ran over, hugged Gu Yichin's leg, and said in a childish voice, Daddy, I want to help too. I want to defeat the monster like Ultraman. We were all amused by the child's innocent words, and the originally tense atmosphere eased considerably. Yes, Dad, I said with a smile, patting my child's head. We are all Ultraman, we can defeat monsters together. The child's words were like a tiny seed, planting a bud of hope in Gu Yichin's and my hearts. Yes, we can't give up like this. For ourselves, for our families, for the future, we must fight bravely. All right, Gu Yichin finally nodded, his eyes blazing with fighting spirit. Let's fight together. His eyes were full of strength, and I knew he was ready to meet the challenge. I would stand firmly by his side and fight alongside him. The little boy seemed to sense our determination, clapping his hands happily and shouting, Defeat the monster, defeat the monster. Children's happiness is so simple and pure, which has strengthened my belief. To protect this innocence, to protect our love and family, we will surely win. A resolute light shone in Gu Yichin's deep eyes. He scooped up the adorable child and lifted him above his head, his hearty laughter breaking the gloom of the past few days. All right, let's be Ultraman and defeat the monster. In the days that followed, we began tense, secret preparations. During the day, Gu Yichin pretended to compromise and dealt with the mysterious person while secretly collecting evidence. I used my professional knowledge to develop a meticulous plan, contact reliable contacts, and proceed step by step. Late at night, we would hide in the study, and by the dim light, we would rehearse each step again and again, striving to ensure that nothing went wrong. However, our actions still alerted Du Yue. She started appearing at the company frequently, monitoring Gu Yichin's every move and even sent people to follow us. The atmosphere at home was extremely oppressive, like the calm before a storm. Be careful, she seems to be starting to suspect us. I lowered my voice and handed a note to Gu Yichin. He took the note, which read, Du Yue met with a private investigator this afternoon. Gu Yichin frowned, crumpled the note into a ball, and threw it into the trash can next to him. I understand, I'll try to stall her. The oppressive feeling of impending storm finally erupted on a stormy night. The torrential rain pounded against the windows as if trying to swallow everything. I gripped Gu Yichin's hand tightly, my palms clammy with cold sweat. It's time, let's go. Gu Yichin's eyes revealed a resolute determination. I picked up my sleeping baby and, following Gu Yichin, quietly left home under the cover of night. In the midst of a raging storm, a black sedan carried us into the unknown darkness. The car finally stopped at a secluded dock where the biting sea wind mixed with rain stung our faces. Looking at the turbulent sea before me, I felt a deep sense of unease. Where are we going? I couldn't help but ask. Gu Yichin didn't answer, but simply held my hand tightly and led us onto a dilapidated fishing boat. With the roar of the engine, the fishing boat slowly sailed away from the dock and disappeared into the vast night. The fishing boat rocked in the storm, and I held the adorable baby tightly in my arms, looking at Gu Yichin with worry. He gripped the helm with a solemn expression, letting the sea breeze tousle his hair. Yichin, where are we going? I couldn't help but ask, a sense of unease spreading through my heart. He glanced back at me, a hint of determination flashing in his deep eyes. Don't worry, you'll see when we get there. After a night's voyage, the fishing boat finally reached the shore. Gu Yichin led me and the little girl to a secluded residence. Here, I met Lu Mingxuan and a middle-aged man I didn't know. Fu Yan, this is Attorney Wang, he can help us. Gu Yichin explained. Attorney Wang nodded to me, then opened his briefcase and took out a series of documents. Miss Fu, based on the information you provided, I have found the mysterious man's fatal weakness. Pointing to one of the documents, Attorney Wang said, he engaged in illegal fundraising activities in his early years. Although his methods were covert, he still left some clues. I took the documents and began to examine them carefully. These documents recorded evidence of the mysterious man's crimes from his early years. Although they were old, they were enough to bring him to justice. Great, I exclaimed excitedly. With this evidence, we can finally bring him down. At the same time, Gu Yichin also began his operation. He used his connections in the business world to collect a large amount of dirt on the mysterious man, including evidence of his tax evasion, stock market manipulation, and other crimes. This evidence is enough to put him in jail for the rest of his life. Gu Yichin organized the documents one by one, his eyes filled with confidence and determination. Just then, the adorable child who had been playing quietly suddenly pointed at the computer screen and said in a childish voice, "Daddy, this person looks like a bad uncle." I looked in the direction the little girl was pointing, and the screen showed the mysterious person and Duyue plotting together. A USB drive that appeared in the picture caught my attention. "Little one, could you give that USB drive to mommy?" I asked, trying to sound calm, but inside I was in turmoil. The little one seemed to sense the tense atmosphere and obediently handed me the USB drive. I took a deep breath and plugged the USB drive into the computer. When I opened the file, my heart started racing. It was full of evidence of the mysterious man's crimes over the years, including how he used charities to launder money, how he bribed officials, and even evidence of his threats against the Gu group. God help me too. I couldn't help but gasp in surprise. This evidence came at the perfect time. It's practically a deadly weapon in our counterattack. Gu Yichin also saw the contents of the USB drive. He pulled me into a tight embrace, his voice low and excited. "Fu Yan, we won." I hugged him tightly back. At that moment, all my grievances and fears vanished, leaving only the joy of victory. We immediately contacted Attorney Wang and handed him the evidence on the USB drive. After reading it, Attorney Wang could not hide his excitement. "This evidence is enough to send the mysterious man to prison. We need to hold a press conference as soon as possible to reveal the truth to the public." A counterattack plan against the mysterious figure is proceeding in a tense but orderly manner. We contacted major media outlets and informed them of the time and location of the press conference. At the same time, we have also invited some people who have been persecuted by the mysterious man, hoping that they will bravely stand up and testify against his crimes. On the day of the press conference, the entire venue was packed, with reporters from various media outlets pointing their cameras and microphones at the podium. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves, and walked onto the stage accompanied by Gu Yichin and Attorney Wang. Facing countless eyes below the stage, I slowly began to reveal the mysterious man's crimes over the years. Each piece of evidence presented was met with a murmur of discontent from the audience. I laid bare the shocking evidence, the concealed truths, and the trampled kindness before the world. My voice grew firmer, my heart stronger, for I knew I was fighting for justice, seeking redress for all those who had been wronged. Over the years, he has been hiding in the shadows, manipulating everything, taking advantage of people's kindness and trust to seek personal gain. I pointed to the photo on the screen. The person in the photo was the mysterious man who had been hiding behind the scenes all along. He not only used charities to launder money, but also bribed officials, suppressed competitors, and even went so far as to harm innocent people. The crowd below the stage stirred. They couldn't believe that this usually well-dressed and dignified philanthropist was actually such a despicable and shameless criminal. "Impossible, you're slandering me." A shrill voice suddenly rang out, and a short, stout man with a greasy face rushed out from the crowd, shouting, "You're slandering me. I'm going to sue you for defamation." "Who are you?" I looked at him coldly, already guessing his identity. "I am the chairman of the XX Charity Foundation." "What evidence do you have to prove that these things are?" Before he could finish speaking, he was restrained by the bodyguards brought by Gu Yichin. "Take him down." Gu Yichin's voice was icy cold, carrying an unquestionable authority. "President Gu, you can't do this. I've been framed. Someone is trying to frame me." The man was still struggling desperately, but his voice had been drowned out by the murmurs of the crowd. I watched the man being taken away without a shred of pity. Everything he did deserved to be punished by law. Is there anyone else who wants to defend him? I looked around, my gaze sharp as a knife. The crowd fell silent, everyone shocked by the facts before them. They finally realized that they had been kept in the dark all along, deceived by a mask of hypocrisy. After the press conference, my phone was ringing off the hook with all sorts of interview requests and congratulatory messages. I leaned wearily against the sofa in Gu Yichin's office, looking out at the bustling city night view, my heart filled with mixed feelings. "Are you okay?" Gu Yichin handed me a glass of warm water, his eyes full of concern. I took the water glass, took a small sip, and shook my head. "I'm fine, just a little tired." "It's all over." He sat down beside me, his voice firm. "From now on, no one will ever hurt you or your family again." I looked up at him, and his eyes were so sincere that they made me feel incredibly at ease. I nodded. I knew that with him by my side, I had nothing to fear. Just then, the office door was suddenly pushed open, and Duyue walked in looking flustered. When she saw me sitting with Gu Yichin, a hint of embarrassment flashed across her face, but it was quickly replaced by anxiety. Yichin, I was also surprised that things turned out this way. Du Yue's voice trembled slightly. What do you think we should do now? Gu Yichin looked at her coldly, his eyes devoid of any warmth. You ask me what to do. When you were colluding with that person, didn't you ever think that this day would come? Du Yue's face paled, and her lips moved as if she wanted to defend herself, but in the end she said nothing. She knew it was too late to say anything now. Gu Yichin was completely disappointed in her. Go away, I don't want to see you again. Gu Yichin's voice was icy cold, piercing Du Yue's heart like a sharp blade. Du Yue glanced at him in despair, then turned and left the office. Looking at her lonely figure, I felt a pang of sympathy, but it was quickly replaced by another emotion. This victory was hard-won. Gu Yichin and I both know that this is just the beginning, and there are many more challenges waiting for us in the future. But I believe that as long as we fight side by side, we will definitely be able to overcome all difficulties and protect our happiness. I was quite surprised that things turned out this way. Du Yue wanted to say something more, but Gu Yichin suddenly stood up and interrupted her performance. Enough, take off your hypocritical mask. From the moment you chose to deal with a tiger, you should have expected this day to come. He ignored Du Yue's pale face, turned around and took Mai and the little one's hands, saying gently, let's go home. As we stepped out of the police station, the warm sunshine bathed us, seemingly dispelling the gloom of the past few days. The little girl clapped her hands excitedly. Let's go home, let's go home. I looked down at her innocent smiling face and my heart was filled with warmth. Back home, Uncle Gu and Gu Yichin had been waiting for a long time. Seeing us return safely, Uncle Gu was so moved that tears streamed down his face. He hugged us tightly, saying, it's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. Since learning the truth, Gu Yichin's spirits have improved considerably, and a trace of color has returned to his pale face. He looked at the adorable child with eyes full of affection. Sister, can I hug her? I smiled and handed the adorable child to him, saying, of course, you'll be her uncle from now on. Gu Yichin carefully held the adorable baby, a happy smile on his face. Seeing this scene filled me with countless emotions. After going through so much, our family is finally reunited. To celebrate this hard-won victory, we decided to have a family gathering. Upon receiving the invitation, Lu Mingxuan was the first to arrive. He looked at me and Gu Yichin and sincerely congratulated us, saying, congratulations, you've finally overcome your hardships. At the party, everyone was laughing and chatting, and the atmosphere was harmonious. Watching this heartwarming scene, my heart was filled with happiness and emotion. However, just then, Gu Yichin's phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and his expression gradually became serious. What did you say? His tone became urgent and low and my heart jumped. I understand, I'll be right there. After hanging up the phone, a complex emotion flashed in his deep eyes. What's wrong? I held his hand and felt that his palm was icy cold. Something urgent has come up at the company, I have to go there right away. He forced a smile and gently stroked my cheek. I'm sorry I can't stay with you. It's all right, you go ahead and do your work. I'll take care of things at home. I nodded understandingly and watched him leave in a hurry. After Gu Yichin left, I couldn't suppress the unease in my heart, and I had a feeling that something was about to happen. I tried to remain calm and urged everyone to continue eating. Sister, does Daddy not want us anymore? The adorable child suddenly asked in a childish voice, her big eyes filled with worry. How could that be? Dad is just busy with work. He loves you the most. I picked up the adorable baby and kissed her little face. But Daddy never abandoned me and my sister before, the little girl pouted, looking aggrieved. My heart ached and I didn't know how to explain it. At this moment, Lu Mingxuan walked over, patted the child's head and said softly, Uncle loves you the most too. Uncle will always be with you and your sister. Hearing Lu Mingxuan's words, the little girl seemed a bit relieved. She blinked her big eyes and asked curiously, really? Uncle, will you tell me stories and play games with me like Daddy does? Of course I will, Lu Mingxuan replied with a smile. Looking into Lu Mingxuan's gentle eyes, I felt a mix of emotions. For so many years he has silently protected me, but after dinner, Uncle Gu and Gu Yichin left in a hurry because they were worried about Gu Yichin. Lu Mingxuan insisted on staying with me and I couldn't refuse him, so I had to agree. It's late at night and the little one is already asleep. Lu Mingxuan and I sat in the living room chatting casually. Yan Yan, are you really determined to be with Gu Yichin? Lu Mingxuan suddenly asked, his tone tinged with bitterness. I was silent for a moment, then looked up at him and said firmly, yes, I love him and I want to be with him. Lu Mingxuan shook his head with a wry smile, but his background is complicated. Are you really prepared? I know, but I believe in him and I believe in myself. I clenched my fists, my eyes filled with determination. Silly girl. Lu Mingxuan reached out and ruffled my hair, his tone full of affection. As long as you're happy, I'll always support you. I looked at him gratefully, my heart filled with warmth. Gu Yichen and I decided that once Gu Yichen's condition stabilizes further, we will hold a family gathering to invite relatives and friends to celebrate this period of victory and reunion. On the day of the gathering, the sun shone brightly and the sky was cloudless, as if it were blessing us. The villa's garden was decorated in a warm and romantic style. Amidst cheerful music, relatives and friends gathered together, their faces beaming with joy. Uncle Gu and Gu Yichen's stepmother Du Yue also came. Although I knew that Du Yue did not approve of my relationship with Gu Yichen, she still pretended to be kind and friendly on the surface. The adorable child, dressed in a beautiful princess dress, flitted through the crowd like a happy little butterfly, her clear laughter infectious to everyone present. I linked arms with Gu Yichen as we moved among the guests, receiving their blessings. He always wore a faint smile and his eyes sparkled with happiness. Congratulations, Yan Yan Yichen. Lu Mingxuan walked up to us with a wine glass in hand, his face full of sincere blessings. I wish you happiness forever. Thank you, I smiled, raised my glass and gently clinked it against his. Brother and sister-in-law, I wish you a long and happy life together and many children. Gu Yichen sat in a wheelchair, pushed over by a caregiver, a shy smile on his face. Seeing that Gu Yichen, who used to be sickly, now looks much better, I feel sincerely gratified. Yichen, you need to get better soon too. When that happens, your sister-in-law will take you to the amusement park. I said with a smile. Yes, Gu Yichen nodded vigorously, his eyes filled with anticipation. Just then, Gu Yichen's phone suddenly rang. He took out his phone, glanced at the caller ID, and his expression changed slightly. Sorry, I'll take a call. He muttered something under his breath, then turned and walked aside to answer the phone. His figure looked particularly lonely in the setting sun, and a sudden unease welled up in my heart as if something was about to happen. He frowned, spoke in a low voice, and his expression grew increasingly serious. My heart jumped, and a sense of foreboding washed over me. Gu Yichen's phone call lasted a long time. He had his back to me, and I could only see his clenched fists and slightly trembling shoulders. What on the other end of the phone had said that made him so uneasy? What's wrong? I asked anxiously as soon as he hung up the phone. Gu Yichen took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down, but he couldn't hide the seriousness in his eyes. It was a blackmail call, the other party said. He paused, seemingly hesitating whether to tell me. What did they say? I pressed, my unease growing stronger. The other party said that he had some company secrets and that if I did not pay a huge sum of money as he demanded, he would make these secrets public. Gu Yichen's voice was low and hoarse, tinged with weariness. My heart sank and Du Yue's face instantly appeared in my mind. Could it be her? What trick is she up to now? Could it be Aunt Du? I asked tentatively. Gu Yichen remained silent for a moment, seemingly also considering the question. It's possible, but there's no evidence yet. No matter what, we cannot sit idly by and wait to die. I clenched my fist, my eyes flashing with determination. We must find out the truth and not let the mastermind succeed. Gu Yichen looked at me, a hint of appreciation flashing in his eyes. Okay, let's investigate together. Did the other party leave any clues, such as their voice, tone of voice, or other information? I tried to calm myself down, hoping to find some clues. Gu Yichen shook his head, his brows furrowed. The other party used a voice changer, and the call was very short, without revealing any personal information. The trail has gone cold. I was a little frustrated. Did we really have to let the mastermind control us? Just then Gu Yichen's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and his expression changed slightly. It's Yichen. He spoke softly and answered the phone. Gu Yichen is Gu Yichen's half-brother. Due to health reasons, he rarely goes out, but he is a computer genius who is omnipotent in the online world. Brother, I heard about the extortion call. Gu Yichen's voice sounded weak, but it couldn't hide his worry. Don't worry, I've started tracking the other party's IP address, hoping to find some clues. A glimmer of hope flashed in Gu Yichen's eyes. Okay, Yichen, I'm counting on you. After hanging up the phone, Gu Yichen's expression improved considerably. He looked at me and said firmly, Don't worry, we still have Yichen. He will definitely find the mastermind behind this. I nodded, a glimmer of hope igniting in my heart. For the next few days, we anxiously awaited news from Gu Yichen. He locked himself in his room, tracking the other person's whereabouts day and night. Gu Yichen and I began to investigate Du Yue, as I always felt that she was involved in this matter. We checked Du Yue's recent call and travel records, and found that she did indeed contact an unknown number frequently and often visited high-end clubs, seemingly meeting secretly with someone. Could this mysterious person be the mastermind behind the extortion calls? What role does Duyue play? My mind was filled with questions. My intuition tells me that a much larger conspiracy is brewing. Just when we were at our wits' end, my phone suddenly rang. It was my kindergarten teacher calling. Hello, Miss Fu Yan. Xiao Bao says he has something important to tell you. Could you come to the kindergarten? My heart skipped a beat. Had my little one gotten into trouble at kindergarten? I rushed to the kindergarten and saw my little one sitting next to the teacher with a serious expression. Mommy. As soon as my little one saw me, he jumped off the chair and ran into my arms, saying in his sweet, childish voice, Mommy, I heard Aunt Du on the phone saying that she was going to hide an uncle so that the police wouldn't arrest him. My heart skipped a beat. Could the uncle the little one mentioned be the mysterious person who blackmailed Gu Yichen? Why would Duyue help him? Xiao Bao is great. I touched his head and checked him over from head to toe to make sure he wasn't injured before I felt relieved. Then I asked him in detail about what happened. Although he was young, his vivid description made me even more convinced that this was no ordinary matter. I immediately told Gu Yichen and Gu Yichen the news. Based on the clues provided by Mengbao, Gu Yichen quickly located the mysterious person's hiding place, an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. We didn't dare delay and immediately drove to the outskirts of the city. The abandoned factory was dark and damp, with a musty smell permeating the air, making people feel very depressed. We carefully searched every corner and finally found traces of the mysterious person in a warehouse. However, just as we were about to arrest him, the warehouse door suddenly opened and blinding sunlight shone in. A familiar figure appeared in the doorway. Duyue, you can't take him away. Duyue's voice was shrill and piercing, her face filled with panic and anger. He's been framed, you can't treat him like this. Could it be that Duyue and this mysterious person really have some kind of shady relationship? Duyue shouted at the top of her lungs, trying to stop us from getting closer. Gu Yichen's eyes sharpened and he strode forward, blocking me and the baby. His tone was icy. Duyue, what do you mean by this? Are you in cahoots with this person? Duyue's face stiffened, her eyes flickered, and she stammered, I don't know what you're talking about. Now that things have come to this, do you still want to deny it? I pointed at the mysterious man trembling in the warehouse. Xiao Bao heard you say you were going to hide him. Do you think that's a lie? Duyue was about to say something when she was interrupted by the noise coming from the warehouse. While we were talking, the mysterious man tried to escape through the back door. Gu Yichen reacted quickly, rushing forward and tackling him to the ground. Seeing this, I immediately stepped forward to help, and together with Gu Yichen we subdued him. The mysterious man struggled and cursed incessantly, but we eventually managed to tie him up. I found a dagger and a cell phone on him. When I opened my phone, I found a lot of information about Gu Yichen and the Gu Group, and even a few secretly filmed videos. I immediately realized that this mysterious person must have been hired by Duyue. She wanted to use this information to threaten Gu Yichen and thus gain control of the Gu Group. I glared at Duyue, furious, and demanded, why did you do this? Why did you hurt Gu Yichen? Seeing that her scheme had been exposed, Duyue decided to stop pretending. She sneered and said, why? Because he stole everything that originally belonged to my son. If it weren't for him, Yichen would be the sole heir of the Gu Group now, and I would be the mistress of the Gu family. I was so angry I was trembling all over. I pointed at Duyue, but I couldn't say a word. Just then, the sound of police sirens grew louder as they approached. It turned out that Gu Yichen had called the police. The police arrived quickly and took the mysterious man and Duyue away. Gu Yichen handed the phone to the police officer and said in a deep voice, this contains evidence that she hired hackers to steal company secrets and even tried to threaten my personal safety. The police officer took the phone and nodded with a serious expression. As I watched Duyue being taken away by the police, I felt a mix of emotions. I once thought she genuinely cared for Gu Yichen and even felt sorry for her, but I never imagined it was all a facade. Everything she did was to satisfy her own selfish desires without hesitating to harm her stepson and us. It's okay, it's all over. Gu Yichen gently held my hand, his eyes like a deep pool soothing my uneasy emotions. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, and turned to look at my quiet little one. He was staring wide-eyed, curiously observing everything around him. I went over, picked him up, and softly asked, little one, are you scared? The little one shook his head and said in a childish voice, I'm not afraid. With Daddy and Mommy here, I'm not afraid of anything. My heart warmed and I kissed his forehead. Yes, as long as our family is together, what difficulties can't we overcome? After the turmoil subsided, the Gu Group returned to calm. When the company's board of directors learned of Duyue's actions, they unanimously decided to remove her from all positions and pursue legal action against her. The once arrogant Duyue ultimately paid the price for her greed. Gu Yichen finally let go of his burdens and devoted himself wholeheartedly to the company's operations. His decisive methods and outstanding business acumen quickly won the approval of the board of directors and employees, and under his leadership, the Gu Group flourished. Sunlight streamed into the living room through the floor-to-ceiling windows, adding warmth to the already cozy room. As I watched Gu Yichen and his son Mengbao playing on the carpet, a smile involuntarily appeared on my face. Mom, look, my little one excitedly held up the building blocks in his hand, showing me his masterpiece. Wow, our Xiaobao is so amazing. I walked over and ruffled his soft hair. By the way, Xiaobao, do you remember what happened that night? The little one tilted his head and thought for a moment, then said in a childish voice, I remember. That night I heard someone lurking outside the door, and I also heard Aunt Du's voice. I secretly told Daddy, and Daddy was so amazing. He caught the bad guy right away. I looked at him in surprise. I didn't expect him to remember it so clearly and that he was so calm and brave back then. I looked at Gu Yichen, and his eyes were also full of satisfaction and pride. It seems our little one is not only smart but also very brave. Gu Yichen said with a smile, we owe him a lot this time, otherwise we don't know how long we would have been kept in the dark. I nodded in deep agreement. After going through so many ups and downs, our relationship has only grown stronger, and we cherish each other even more. Yan Yan, Gu Yichen suddenly knelt on one knee, took out an exquisite box from his pocket, opened it, and a dazzling diamond ring sparkled under the light. Will you marry me? I covered my mouth, tears welling in my eyes, and nodded gently. It is good. We've decided to have a grand wedding and invite all our family and friends to witness our happiness. On my wedding day, I wore a pure white wedding dress, took my father's hand, and slowly walked towards Gu Yichen at the end of the red carpet. He was dressed in a black suit, with a tall and straight posture and a happy smile on his face. The adorable baby, acting as a flower girl, carried a flower basket and skipped and hopped ahead of us, scattering flower petals that symbolized happiness for us. Just as we were exchanging rings and receiving everyone's blessings, a familiar figure appeared at the church entrance. His eyes were complicated, and a cryptic smile played on his lips. Inside the church, the melodious wedding march played, and I took my father's hand as we walked step by step toward Gu Yichen at the end of the red carpet. Today he was wearing a well-tailored black suit, looking less aloof than usual and more gentle. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass, casting a soft halo around him. My heart was pounding as if it would leap out of my chest at any moment. The adorable baby, dressed in a tiny suit, looked like a cute little angel skipping and hopping ahead of us. His little flower basket was filled with pink rose petals which he scattered as he walked, leaving behind a romantic scene. As I walked up to him, my father solemnly placed my hand in his. Gu Yichen's palm was warm and dry. He held my hand, looking at me with deep affection, his eyes filled with an intense love. Fu Yan, do you take Gu Yichen to be your husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part? The pastor's solemn voice rang out. I do. My voice trembled slightly with excitement, but my answer was absolutely firm. Gu Yichen, do you take Fu Yan to be your wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish her forever? I do. Gu Yichen's voice was deep and magnetic, carrying a reassuring power. We exchanged rings, made a lifelong promise to each other, and shared a deep kiss amidst the blessings of family and friends. However, at that moment, the church door was suddenly pushed open, and a tall figure walked in against the light. He was wearing a black trench coat with his hat pulled low, obscuring his face, but the powerful aura emanating from him was impossible to ignore. The guests in the church gasped in surprise, and the joyful atmosphere froze instantly. Everyone stared at the uninvited guest in astonishment, wondering what he was going to do. My heart sank suddenly and an ominous premonition came over me. The uninvited guest slowly took off his hat, and in the glaring sunlight a familiar face came into view. It was Lin Jiao. How come she is here? The guests erupted in chatter. I saw Gu Yichen's face turn gloomy in an instant, and he unconsciously tightened his grip on my hand. Ignoring the stares of those around her, Lin Jiao walked straight toward me with a smug smile. Every step she took felt like it was stomping on my heart, making me feel suffocated. Fu Yan, do you think this will bring you happiness? She stood in front of me, her tone sharp and sarcastic, her eyes filled with jealousy and resentment. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress my anger, and looked directly at her distorted face. Lin Jiao, your scheme has failed. What else do you have to say? She burst into unrestrained laughter as if she had heard a hilarious joke, her sharp and shrill laughter standing out starkly at the wedding. Bankruptcy? Fu Yan, you're too naive. I'm just here to tell you that the real game has only just begun. Lin Jiao's smile carried a chilling undertone. like the forked tongue of a venomous snake, sending shivers down one's spine. After speaking, she turned and left without looking back, leaving behind an unsettling silhouette. The guests looked at each other and whispered among themselves. I felt countless gazes on me, some curious, some inquisitive, and some sympathetic. Don't worry, she can't come up with anything. Gu Yichin gently put his arm around my shoulder, his voice deep and reassuring. His warmth reassured me a little, but I still felt a lingering unease, like a stone pressing on my chest that I couldn't shake off. The little boy standing next to me seemed to sense the tense atmosphere. He gripped my hand tightly, looked up at me with his clear eyes, and said firmly, "Mom, I will protect you." The child's innocent words gave me immense strength. I bent down and gently kissed his forehead. "Thank you, baby." The wedding continued amidst my nervousness. Exchanging rings and reciting vows, every step felt like a dream. I kept telling myself that it was all real, that Gu Yichin and I had finally gotten married, but the unease in my heart just wouldn't go away. Just as the wedding was about to end, a waiter hurriedly came up to me and handed me an anonymous package. "Miss Fu, this is your package. It says it's urgent." I took the package with a puzzled look, a strange unease welling up inside me. Gu Yichin noticed my unusual behavior and came over, asking with concern, "What's wrong?" I shook my head to indicate that he was all right, and then opened the package. There was only one photo in the package and the person in the photo. My face turned deathly pale instantly, and the photo in my hand fell to the ground. Gu Yichin quickly picked up the photo from the ground, his brows furrowed and